everybody. We're here at the floor of NAB 2018 here at the Maxon booth. And you're following us on Brograph on iDesign.com. We're going to be doing this all week, interviewing all of the talented artists here presenting at the booth and just other MoGraph personalities. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Here I am joined today with Dan Pierce. He's presenting for the second time with Maxon, right? Yes. And let's kind of just talk about how you got into 3D and started using Cinema 4D.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I've probably been using it for about 10 years now. I was always 2D guy exclusively. I never wanted to go into it. I don't know why. I think I used 3D Invigorator, if you remember that plugin from many moons ago, and I was stuck in that. And then my friend Matt Ciaglia, we were working together. He was learning it, and I could see over my shoulder, and I was like, hey, what's that? That kind of looks accessible, easy to learn. And he showed me some stuff, and that just started the whole thing. And I could tell all this time that I wanted to create all these elements and everything that I could see in my head, and I could never do it with 2D, or I couldn't find the right photo. I could just start building stuff, and it really just snowballed from there. And then I'm pretty much exclusively in cinema now, and then just After Effects for finishing things. Yeah,
I was like the same exact way. So 2D was your bridge into Cinema 4D. Then.
Yeah, that's right. I started out as a assistant editor for film and stuff, and during that process I was learning After Effects, and so I was like, oh, hey, I could do some titles and stuff. So that just sort of got that ball rolling, and that was a long time ago. And then just once the 3D got into it, and that just opened everything up. And then I find that Cinema 4D particularly is that you can just dive in really quick, test things out, because a lot of times, because I was taught that I don't know the right way how to do things, so just stumbling through things and how easy it is, and then like we were speaking about, like the procedural nature of it, go back, tweak, this is cool, oh, I don't like this, change this, and that really helped the learning curve move a lot faster.
Totally. So you're working at Fox, right?
That is correct, yes. So I've been there for about 4 years now. We have their own promotion department, so we deal with whatever you see on TV, Thursdays, new episode of blah-blah-blah. Yeah, exactly. So we do all the graphic packages for those. So that is logo design, what we call interstitials, the cards that will tell you the tune-ins and all that kind of stuff, or whatever copy. And then a lot of the times we take what we've designed for that and we expand it into the outdoor realm, and that's different types of screens, sizes, and ratios and stuff, so that makes it really interesting. We do one in Times Square called the Godzilla, and that's like 7,000 by 2,000 pixels, so that's a real chunker to get through, but Cinema 4D, totally fine with that. And then we do this other one that's in the World Trade Center, or actually I think it's called the Oculus. It's whatever bridges the subway to the World Trade Center, and it's 107 feet long, and which equates to about 23,000 pixels. And we just did something for that for the Orville, a big like space scene, like we were looking out from an observation deck into that, and we used Cinema for that, and it worked out just fine.
So what are some of the challenges for designing for such a large canvas like that?
Right. Well, we ratio down, so for all our tests, and we do that, and then, but with a screen that side, one of the interesting things is you can't physically see one end and the other end at the same time because it's so big. Because the width, you'd have to be really far out to be able to see it all. So knowing that, when you animate things and put elements in, you can have something going on here which may be similar to something going on here, and we've learned that you can do that and sort of loop things, and things will be okay.
Get a little bit more efficient with, okay. A lot of tricks.
And then at the final render, that's when we go up to 22,000, fingers crossed, and then just render and wait. Yeah.
That's like the lovely thing about Cinema 4D is that you have the composition. It's not like in After Effects where you design that low and then you have to scale everything up and resize shape layers. And
yeah, it's amazing. Even with like frame rates, because our outdoor stuff a lot of times is 30 frames a second, we've designed our on-air stuff at 24. Just change it in the project settings and it's all set to go, and you render it out. And then also with the take system, that we do a lot of different formats. We do stuff for Snapchat, which is 16:9 turned on the side. So if we have takes, we just line up all those, have different cameras with the different ratios, press render, boom, 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 and it just goes through them all.
Do you find it very interesting, all the different medias that you can design for now, just outside of broadcast?
Oh, yeah, totally. I mean, there's so many things that need the content, which is great for us, and it's a lot of fun because it's sort of this new realm that we haven't explored yet, and new challenges that we get to problem solve through. Mm-hmm.
So this is your second year presenting at NAB, right?
That's right.
So you presented once today.
Yes.
Are you done, or you got another one going?
Well, I actually have 2 different hours. So on Wednesday is kind of a continuation of what I did earlier. So I have 2 more sort of scenarios, themes, and then I'm going to go through the versioning of how to set apart a scene and to make it the most efficient way to version tonight, tomorrow, this week, next Wednesday, all that kind of stuff, and have cinema using the take system that I mentioned before. Just press render and let it all go.
And for those of you out there that might not have caught his presentation on C4D Live yet, what did you cover, and what do people have in store for that one?
Okay, well, I did like a fictional network, and to promote like these movie nights that they might have. So I had an action scene and a comedy scene, and I'll do a sci-fi and a thriller scene. So in the action scene, it was like these meteors coming down using the Voronoi fracturing. Yes. Oh, I almost got it. I know. I just say baloney. It's fracturing. And you just had to sort of destroy a building, and then how to art direct a specific road collapse using the shader source rather than the point source on the fracturing. Yep. And then in the comedy, did soft body donuts, and then I did a conveyor belt, just going into connectors and motors and stuff of how you can animate an entire scene with no keyframes, because that way if there's changes you don't have to go in and figure out what's what. You just switch things out, let it figure it out again.
That's awesome. Well, for those of you out there that haven't watched that, you can find all of Dan's stuff on c4dlive.com, and you will be on what time?
Wednesday at 2 o'clock.
Wednesday at 2 o'clock, so be sure to catch Dan then on c4dlive.com. Dan, thank you so much for taking the time out to talk.
Yeah, no
worries. And keep it locked to c4dlive.com, brograph.com, iDesign.com. All the YouTube channels are going to be here all week interviewing more talented people just like Dan. So stay tuned, and we'll see you in the next video.
What's up, everybody? We are on the showroom floor of NAB 2018.
That's the year.
That's
the place. That's where we are.
Yes. So we are bringing a lot of videos to you guys, as we've done in the past. Brograph and iDesign. I figured we'd start it out interviewing the man, the myth, the legend, EJ Hassenfratz.
People's here?
So you just had your presentation.
Yes.
How'd it go?
It was amazing. First one to go, opened up the show, packed house.
Yeah.
A lot of this community is amazing. Like there's just absolutely so many people that are here, and everyone's so nice. A lot of first timers, which is really cool. And they got spoiled last night with that big MoGraph meetup. That was
yes, they did.
Insane. But yeah, this is like the highlight of my years. NAB. It's just to hang out with all of my buddies, and every year I feel like I meet more and more new MoGraph friends. So it's definitely one of the highlights, definitely for sure.
So you're speaking twice this week.
Yeah.
So today and then Wednesday.
12:30.
Yes. So what was your talk over today?
So I started out by just kind of my journey in Cinema 4D. So like especially specifically with Sketch and Tune, and how I got, how I was like, what, I suck at design, so I'm gonna do some Sketch and Tune stuff, because that's like stripping away all the really complicated material stuff. Like I was not doing Octane at that time. I don't even think it was out, but started just showing like this is how easy it is to get your 3D into 2D. And then I showed a lot of handy animation tips. I showed a lot of Jiggledeformer goodness, and then some cool dynamic stuff and ghost colliders and
spooky ghost colliders.
Spooky ghost collider, and then ended with some like simple character animation. And then I have on Wednesday I have a lot more character animation stuff, so I'm going to be covering that.
With the hamburger?
With the hamburger guy, yeah. We're going to be, and then I'm going to do the talking hamburger, which I didn't get to.
I know.
But, yeah.
I was like watching the whole time. I'm like, where's the hamburger? Where's the hamburger?
I was like, can I rush to get to that? And I was like, I ran out of time. But yeah, I'm really excited for that. I got enough for 2 presentations, so going to keep it fresh. But
so switching over to a new topic, so you, along with Joey Corman or School of Motion, EJ hats and pants. You are now doing the very first C4D boot camp, right?
Yes, C4D base camp. Actually, we're gonna the whole thing is you're climbing. The analogy is you're climbing a mountain, and on the top you're gonna plant your C4D flag.
I like that.
And the intro animation was done by Animate out of London, which amazing. I was geeking out that they even accepted the project to do it, but amazing animation. Go check out animate.tv, and they've actually been posting a lot of the behind the scenes on how they made the little open. It's this character that it just shows the journey of learning 3D and like makes a little cube that captures a snake made out of primitive objects and stuff. It's really, really cool. But
it looks like kind of stop motion-y almost.
Stop motion-y, very awesome. But we have a whole 80s vibe to the course, which is fun, and it goes from like 0 to hero, basically. Like, nothing about 3D. And
nothing about 3D at all?
Nothing about 3D at all. We have a whole orientation course. We're like, here's your viewport. This is how 3D works. These are your shortcut keys. This is a primitive. This is how they work. And just getting your feet wet, getting comfortable in 3D space. And I was just talking to someone about how they like, oh yeah, I've used 3D in After Effects, and I'm like, oh, that's so much harder. I'm like, it's like a fresh breath of, like, you're not locked in a cage anymore. Like, you can actually, move your limbs and not, not trying to compensate for lack of a true 3D space. So I think that's going to be very freeing for artists, especially After Effects artists that might be going through the system. But we go from not knowing anything to, at the very end, compositing your very first motion graphics piece using object buffers and compositing inside of After Effects. So it's the whole spectrum. And again, it's 80s themed, so we try to work in 80s references.
Yay!
The podcast intro is very heavily influenced by Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles quotes. And then we have an entire Qbert week.
All right.
Where we use Qbert assets to kind of teach animation concepts and stuff like that. So it's I had a lot of fun working on it, and hopefully the students do too. It opens first semester opens next week. So orientation start next week. So yeah, sold out really quickly, which I'm very thankful for and humbled. That is just amazing for it.
Awesome.
For it. Awesome. Yeah.
All right. So here we are on the showroom floor, NAB 2018. We
should be here. Why aren't you here?
Yeah. Why are you sitting on your...
We did this last year, and you weren't here either. You need to get your life together.
Well, some of you weren't. Some of you are here now.
But you know who you are that we're talking about.
So, yeah. Make sure to stick around if you can't be here and come and find us because we're going to be pushing out more videos all throughout the week, both on Brograph and iDesign.com. Where can people get a hold of you?
iDesign.com, and I'm right here right now, so come say hi.
Come say hi. All right. Bye. What's up, guys? I'm here with JC Tecklenburg. Say hi, JC.
Hi, JC.
JC is a man of many hats, C4D artist. He also, let's see, do you run the Mo Chat on Tuesday night?
I don't run it per se, but I work alongside Paul Cunigliaro, Kate Kaiju, and Brian Beam to have a fun motion design themed chat every week.
Yeah. You also do, you're a big part of the motion design Slack as well, right?
I'd like to think so. I'm not important on there or anything, but I enjoy the value I get from it.
Okay. So, can you tell me a little bit about how, like, were you a part of, like, the beginnings of the motion design Slack and, like, the MoGraph Twitter meetups and stuff like that? Were you a part of the beginnings of that?
I mean, I don't know. I only know what I know. I don't know how long it was going before I showed up, but for me, joining the motion design Slack and becoming a member of the community was the beginning of my career, and it is really the point in time where everything exploded. Like, being able to have access to people who know more than me, and, like, it's both intimidating in the sense of, like, oh my god, I'm the worst person ever, I can't even make a cube, make it work, but it's also motivating in the sense that, like, there's all this room ahead of me, and I can see in front of me where I can go. and I want to go in that direction. But it's also when you meet new people and forge those connections at places like NAB, at SIGGRAPH, even on the internet, on Twitter or on the Slack. You're kind of making friends, but also colleagues in the sense that, like, if you're in a bind, you can call up Brograph and be like, yo, I need some rendering power. Can you help me out this time? And you'd be like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, it's funny. Like I said, I've said this a couple times. It's like, you know, we work for ourselves. You know, we're freelancers and stuff like that. So the Slack, the motion design Slack, and the Brograph Slack, and the iDesign Slack, these are where all your friends are.
Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
It's like we had a huge group of people at this big meetup last night, and it's like they're my best friends, but I've never met them before.
It's like outsourcing your coworkers.
I like that.
But in a way, it's like way better than your coworkers can ever be, because it's like they're all interesting and people you want to know, and you get to kind of choose them.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
Like choosing it's like friends of the family you choose. Like the motion design community is the coworkers we get to choose.
Yeah, you could have like totally different like political backgrounds and everything, but it's like we share this common MoGraph, you know, industry that it's like, oh, we don't have anything to talk about. Let's talk about a render engine. All right, we're friends now.
Yeah, definitely.
So, all right, where can people find you online?
I'm on Twitter at Picaro24, and you can find me mostly at hashtag MoChat, which is every Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern. We have a discussion about different topics in the motor design field, and we'd love to have you out. Awesome.
Thank you, guys. We'll keep watching the stream for more stuff from Brograph and iDesign as we roam the NAB Maxon floor. We're not really leaving this 20 by 30 space, 50 by 30 space anyway.
It's super chill. We're on the floor right now.
Very chill. What's up, everybody? We are here with Joey Korenman from School of Motion. Hello, Joey.
Hey, hello. Thanks for having me.
So I'm really excited to talk to you. There's a bunch of big things that's happened. Like we had you on, we talked to you last year at NAB, and this was kind of before I knew a lot about you, knew a lot about School of Motion and stuff. EJ was interviewing you too, so I couldn't ask any questions. Since that time, a couple of big things, at least as far as I'm concerned, has happened within School of Motion. One of them was, of course, the thing that I talk about on the podcast weekly is your book, The Freelance Manifesto.
Well, thank you so much for saying kind words about it. It was like birthing a baby to get that book made.
I can imagine. Yeah, you kind of teased at it, when we were talking last year. And I got to say, so there are so many comforting words in that book, because as a freelancer, you're always thinking, am I doing this right? You're just kind of like running and gunning. And so one little thing about our industry is that we're kind of closed off. I don't know, there's like this mentality in the world where you don't talk about money.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's like you go out there and you lay it all down and you say, this is the way, this is a helpful way, not necessarily the best way, but this is the way that you will succeed.
Right.
I mean, were you worried at all about like putting it out there?
No. Here's the thing, the reason I wrote the book was because I kept having these same conversations over and over again with my friends who'd go freelance, and you're right, people don't like to talk about money, and I think that's changing a little bit. But they'd have simple questions like, well, how much should I charge? And they'd say, well, charge this much. Okay. Well, I'm afraid to charge that much. Okay, well then here are the words you say. Make these sounds with your mouth when they ask you that question.
Right.
And they do. Oh my God, it worked. Now what? Now do this. Oh my God, it worked. And it really is, in some instances, like following a recipe.
Yeah.
So I don't think it has to be as scary and arcane and taboo to talk about how to sell your services, get money for them, and then continue to do that. So that's why I wrote the book, and I hope that it sort of makes it okay to talk about this stuff, in some small way.
Yeah, I agree. And it's just like I said, it's very comforting knowing that yes, some things I'm doing right, and some things I could do better by doing this and this and this. So, thank you for that. Anyway. Moving on, the other big thing, and we talked to EJ about this because he's now teaching your first Cinema 4D Basecamp.
Yes.
Yeah. So give me a little bit of background about that. I'm assuming you guys wanted to get into C4D. You guys have been into design, and After Effects.
Right.
What was the whole inspiration with that?
Sure. So the story behind Cinema 4D Basecamp is that I literally wanted to make that class ever since I made a class. I made my first class, Animation Boot Camp, and then I was like, I want to make a C4D class. Yeah. And the problem was I'm an okay Cinema 4D artist. And so I was trying to wrap my head around it, and I just couldn't. And so we ended up just focusing on what we're really good at, After Effects, Photoshop, design. But we get so many requests for Cinema 4D training. It is by far the most requested class.
I mean, you guys sold out in no time at all.
Yeah, well, so we decided to do it finally. Yeah. And I bribed and blackmailed EJ, right? So I know all his secrets. So convinced him to do it. And then as soon as we announced it, on Twitter and Facebook, there was a lot of noise about it. So I suspected, okay, maybe we're onto something here. And then it went on sale and it sold out in 3 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it actually starts next week as the first session.
How many students are there?
There's 211 for this first session.
211 spots in 3 hours.
Yes.
Dude,
yeah. Well, overall, this session, it's really interesting. This session, we have, all our other classes went on sale at the same time. We have almost 800 students in this session, so the company's grown a lot. I'm so excited that EJ is on board and helping to make this class, and it's going to be amazing. I really think it's going to be the best Cinema 4D class out there because it's EJ and the way that we teach is very unique online. But this is not the last Cinema 4D class either. We want to keep going. We want to bring in other people with knowledge of photorealism and third-party rendering and stuff like that, and really build a 3D curriculum using the platform that we now have. And we're still continuing to do After Effects classes. We have an advanced After Effects class coming out in the summer. We actually have a few. We have 6 classes in production right now. So there's a lot going on, but this Cinema 4D thing is the thing I'm most excited about at NAB right now. Yeah.
So let me ask you this. Let me, to kind of switch gears a little bit, I want to talk about your background,
Sure.
So you ran your own company for a while, you talk about that in the book,
right.
And then you went into teaching,
Right.
and you were freelancing, you left the company to become freelance full-time and stuff like that. What was it, at what point did you say, okay, I'm done freelancing, and I want to start the School of Motion? Or was it a gradual transition to where you were doing both?
Sure.
And maybe just the beginnings of School of Motion?
Yeah. So there was definitely a transition period, right? So I was at Ringling, right? Ringling College of Art and Design. So I was teaching full-time and freelancing also. Yeah. Then I left Ringling and freelanced and did School of Motion. So I always had two things, and they were overlapping. And School of Motion and freelancing overlapped really for the first 2 or 3 years that we were selling classes, because the company wasn't making enough for me to pay myself and pay my bills, and I started to hire people and things like that. And it was about year 3 that we sort of hit that point where I was like, okay, it's actually worth it now for me to just stop doing freelance and to focus on this. And that was about 2 years ago. And so now that's all I do is School of Motion. And it takes all of my time. So I don't have time to freelance even if I wanted to. But it's funny because someone was just asking me, do I miss actually doing that kind of stuff? And I do a little bit. But I always like to have a new challenge, right? And that's what I loved about freelancing, is that it's always a new challenge every single job. And running School of Motion every single day, it's like a new fire to put out, a new challenge, a new class we're working on, some new nut to crack. So yeah, but that's basically how it ended up getting here.
Any last advice for someone who's trying to... well, my advice would be buy your book, and read it. Everyone who says, I'm thinking about going freelance, I say, buy this book. The Freelance Manifesto, you can buy it on Amazon. Any advice you would give to someone who's saying, I'm thinking of going freelancer? What would be your number one?
Okay. It's funny because I was just talking to Damon about this because he I probably shouldn't say in case his boss is watching. But what I would say is this, that when you go freelance, 2 things happen. One, you're scared out of your mind.
Yeah.
Okay? And there's just no way around that.
Yeah, that doesn't end either.
Yeah. It I feel like you get used to it. You develop a callus, right? Yeah. But then at the same time, it's the most exhilarating, amazing thing when it starts to work. Uh-huh. And all of a sudden, you, out of nothing, created this business that is you. You're the business, right? And that fear, that transitional sort of fear, that's what keeps most people from doing it. Almost everybody I talk to, I can hear them trying to talk themselves in or out of freelancing. Like, well, I have these bills, I got a kid, this and that. And the thing is, you just at some point are going to have to say, yeah, this is scary as hell. Let's do it. Let's go for it. And in the book, I talk about doing fear setting, where like you try to play out the worst case scenario in your mind. Right. What if this doesn't work? Right. And if it doesn't work, it's like, okay, I'll crash on my parents' couch for 2 weeks and then I'll get a full-time job. It's really not that bad. But that fear is what you need to overcome. So I would say like the best advice is just start leaning into the fear a little bit. If you have a voice in your head saying, oh, I don't know, maybe you shouldn't do this, you probably should.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on and talking about that. We will be doing more videos on the showroom floor of NAB 2018. Stick around, iDesign and Brograph.com. What's up, guys? We are here with Martin Weber from URender, which, if you don't know, formerly Tachyon Render, but now rebranded into URender. It is a real-time renderer?
Yeah, it's a real-time renderer. It's using technology like in a game engine. You might know Unity or Unreal Engine. And we were trying to use Unreal in our own productions. And we noticed it's quite a process, and you have to change your pipeline to get the data out of Cinema 4D into Unreal. And once you're in Unreal, you better stay in Unreal, because when you need to make changes, going back and forth is cumbersome. So the main part we were interested was the real-time rendering. We didn't need the animation system or the other stuff of a game engine. So at some point, we decided to bring the rendering technology of game engines into Cinema 4D. That was the starting point for ourselves.
It's a very interesting concept, I have to say. And watching it was. I've been following you guys on Twitter for a while, and it's one that I'm really excited to see the future of and where it's going to go. Because, like I said, it's a very interesting concept, taking like a kind of a game engine, and making it into an actual 3D renderer. But with that, you get a lot of positives, like the real time. Yes. So it takes maybe a little bit to load the scene, but as soon as it's done, you can move the camera around and it's just done.
Yeah, that's the important part for us. So if you have a supervised session with a client and the client says, what's when we go more red, or let's move this here, move that there, can we change the light, I don't like the reflections. You want to update this as fast as possible, so you stay in the flow with the client and not have to wait for minutes until there's a picture that the client can see and make a decision on. So that's one aspect. And the other one is, if you're a creative artist, you want to stay in the flow. You want to try things out. You want to experiment. And if you have to constantly wait for render results, that's breaking the flow. And it's getting kind of frustrating. If you would work in Photoshop or Illustrator and would have to wait a minute or two just if you move a layer or change the blend mode, I don't think it would be much fun. So we thought bringing this responsiveness into Cinema 4D would be a really great benefit for an artist.
And so you mentioned Unreal Engine and stuff, and this was kind of the inspiration. Is there anything that you guys are working towards, or any advantages that might help a C4D artist working in Tachyon towards working in Unreal?
Yes, of course. So coming from production ourselves, we know we need multipass rendering. We want to change stuff in compositing. You need depth passes, normal passes to relight. I want to have specular or diffuse passes, so you can make changes on the last minute. Or the client wants to color grade a certain object. You need object IDs or material IDs. So we have implemented support for multipass rendering, so you can get all the information out of the real-time renderer and continue using it in After Effects like you used to. And in contrast to game engines, they have a focus on performance, so they absolutely need to run at least at 30 frames per second. And it's okay if rendering is running with 5 or 6 frames per second. You still see the updates.
Oh darn, 5 or 6 frames per second render.
Yeah. And the other stuff we are thinking about is how we can increase the quality of our game engines. We are right on the start still with our development, but we are thinking how we can have better transparencies or have multi-frame sampling so that anti-aliasing is less of a problem. and all that stuff, or crank up certain aspects that would not run in real time. So you can work in real time, crank up some parameters. It's running maybe in 2 or 3 seconds per frame, and you're still getting quick results.
Yeah, and the feedback when you're moving around your camera is it's instant, right? Yeah. That's what amazed me, is that literally you can move around the scene, as you can see behind us, and it is it's just instant.
Yes.
There's no re-sampling or anything like that. It's just instant.
Yes.
Yeah. And okay, so another thing that's different from you guys versus a lot of the other render engines out there. You've got V-Ray, which uses both CPU and GPU. You've got Octane, which is NVIDIA only. As well as Redshift and all these other ones. This will work on any GPU that there is, with the exception of Intel. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we have it running on AMD and NVIDIA. We're using OpenGL to access the hardware, so that's working great. With Intel integrated graphics, we have a couple of minor issues, but we are looking into it. So the goal is that it also runs on an integrated hardware. So if you're traveling or meeting the client and you have only a small notebook with you, you might also get real-time running there. The performance would be not as good as with, let's say, 1080.
Yeah. I was going to say, you're running this is just a 1060, right?
This is running on a 1060.
Yeah, and it was still super fast, very snappy.
Yeah, most of our videos we've shared on our Vimeo channel or YouTube are actually captured on GTX 1060.
Now, let me ask you this. Would there be any advantages working with multiple cards?
The benefits are not that big with OpenGL.
Right. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, with CUDA you get huge improvements because it's spreading the workload across multiple cards. With game engines, they have the SLI interleaving, etc., but it's not resulting in such performance boosts. And in the past there have been some problems with stability. So right now we don't test it on multi-GPU systems. It's running on a single GPU.
See, that's amazing to me, that it can be so quick like that and still just running on one single GPU. Yeah. Well, awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really excited. Is there one particular area that you're really excited about for people to get their hands on?
Yeah, we are really curious to get feedback from users. I think we're in a pretty good shape right now. There are a couple of things that are still missing, which we are working on, but we should have a beta soon, and are curious to hear the feedback from users, what they want to see, where we need to make improvements so that they really can use it in production.
Where can people find you guys online?
Our website is on u-render3d.com.
Okay. And on Twitter?
On Twitter, it's urender3d, and on Facebook also.
Thank you so much. Stick around on the NAB floor for more videos coming throughout the week. Thank you.
What's up, everybody? This is Dave Koss with Brograph and iDesign. We're doing our little series here and continuing on, talking to Sean Astrom about Corona tutorials and Corona render as well. So you do tutorials on your own, and we also have those on our site, which is awesome. They're in beta right now, right?
Yes, so that's the thing. Corona Render has been available for probably almost 2.5 years now, but they will be releasing the final version later this year. That's the plan. You can currently get the second beta right now at the Corona website, and so the thing with Corona is the integration into Cinema is super deep. So they're trying to support all of the native shaders. So if you want to use a procedural wood shader, you can do that. You don't have to bake it out to any sort of textures. It's all rendered procedurally without having to do any of that, which is pretty great. And it's CPU based, so it helps to have a nice beefy CPU. But I came from using V-Ray for many years, and to switch over to Corona was just a really nice transition in terms of just the simplicity. Well, it's a little bit simpler to use than V-Ray, but it looks amazing. And V-Ray's integration into Cinema is also really great, so it was kind of like an easy jump for me because I'm used to being able to use all those native shaders and been using it for so long.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah.
So CPU based, not GPU. That's really specific. Tell us about your specific CPU setup that you use.
Yeah, it's a great question. So I use two computers, so I can kind of bounce between them, which is pretty geeky, I think, but it works great for me. So about a couple years ago, I built a server with two 20-core Xeon chips. So it actually has 40 cores and gets a...
That's pretty hardcore.
Yeah, it's a little hardcore. So not everyone's going to do that, but for me and what I do and being in Cinema 4D 10 hours a day, like, it made sense. Like, you know, I kind of agree with Nick Campbell when he says, like, put your money, you know, buy the nicest computer you can put together, because if this is what you're doing, then it makes sense. But yeah, so that particular machine gets a Cinebench score of around like 4,800, and then so I will use that a lot of times as like a render node. And then my main work machine, though, I actually just have an i9 12-core custom built PC that I use as my main machine. And I do have some GPUs in there that I will sometimes use with Redshift and everything else. But for a Corona being on any modern-day CPU, it's going to feel really fast. It's definitely one of the faster CPU-based engines out on the market, if not arguably the fastest. So the secret to their speed is their GI solution is just crazy quick. It's like super state-of-the-art. So yeah, it's awesome.
So timeline-wise,
yes.
What is the release date looking like?
Well, they're saying second quarter of 2018, so it could be really around the corner here. But the beautiful thing is you can go right now under the forums, download the latest second beta, and test it out. I know right now they're kind of working on getting official hair support and particle support, and those were kind of two of the features that they were kind of waiting till the end, till everything else works. But like little things like material stacking works in Corona exactly the same way it does in Cinema.
And that's a new thing now, right? That just kind of came out a few weeks ago?
Like back around December. So, but, you know, just super tight integration. And gosh, there's just so many other nice things about it. Like the material, it literally has one material. Well, they recently added a really great skin shader, but the materials are super quick to set up, and it's just simple and easy to use. So I'm a big fan.
Cool. So your website is?
Yeah, SeanAstrom.com.
And if they want to find Corona?
Corona-render.com.
All right, cool.
Yeah, check it out, guys. It's a good one.
All right, now, one last thing. Whenever I'm editing your tutorials, there's one thing that I crack up at every single time, especially when I'm looking at the raw footage, and that's your exit. So I'm going to go ahead and say thanks, and then I want you to do your exit.
Okay.
All right. All right.
All right.
Take care.
Take care.
All right, David Aria of Octane Jesus here with iDesign.com and Brograph.com interviewing Zachary Corzine, who just went on and did an amazing presentation, man. Yeah, what's up? How's it going?
Good, man. This is my first NAB and first presentation.
Oh, no way.
And it's been absolutely incredible so far. It's been so much fun. So yeah.
That's awesome, dude. Yeah, your presentation totally blew me away. You've got this whole MoGraph thing, combining it with Octane. So, tell me a bit about, so where do you live? What's, did you get your start with a company, or are you freelance now? And what's your place in the whole world of motion design right now?
Yeah, so I currently live in San Francisco. I have a background in design. I went to college in San Francisco for design. And then I was at an advertising agency full-time for a couple years, and we ended up getting some clients on Google that needed some animation stuff, and we had no one to do animation. So I was kind of okay, I'll try doing that, and realized how much I loved it and how much fun it was, and transitioned from there, from design into motion design. I was with them for about a year, basically kind of one-man animation department. And
yeah, that's my jam too, is that one-man thing. That's so much fun.
Which is a blessing and a curse. And one end, it's amazing because I feel I have a solid understanding of from initial concepting to final delivery. Right. But then on the other hand, with the advertising agency, it kind of got to the point where it was you're this one-man team.
You're isolated, and and you're not necessarily collaborating with all the people you'd want to be. You don't necessarily know how to patch into a bigger like pipeline. But yeah, there's definitely some awesomeness to being like able to be this uber generalist, and do it all yourself. Like, and that's why I love like being a motion designer. It makes you more of like a creative director to some degree.
Totally, yeah. And so basically all those kind of factors led to me deciding to leave and go freelance. So I've been freelance for about a year and some change, and it's been absolutely incredible.
Are you liking it better as a freelancer?
Yeah, man. Awesome. I feel like this last year I've been the most productive I've ever been, because it just frees up so much time. And so like a lot of this presentation I gave on like personal projects, personal experiments is like all stuff that I've done since going freelance, because I've like been really able to like focus and like dive in headfirst into like my work. And when you're full time, like I was doing some freelance. My first freelance gig, I got picked up by the NBA because they actually saw some of my work on Instagram, and I was doing like some social videos for them. And like since then, it's just been like, I've just been when I was full time and then also freelancing. It's like you're doing 9 to 5, and then at the end of the day having to go home and freelance, and you just don't have energy to really like get a sense of yourself as a designer and your work and what you want to do. And so since this last year of being freelance, I feel like it's been the best year of my career and the most productive I've been, and like it's been incredible. That's
awesome.
Amazing.
That's so cool.
Man.
And like doing those like Instagram projects, like it really frees you up to do like these unique experiments, which is much of what your presentation was about. Clients aren't necessarily going to pay you for that until, like you said, you do the work, and then somebody hires you to do that work. It's almost like a catch-22 where you want to make the cool thing, and then people like are attracted to that art and then hire you to do that cool thing. So that's really cool that you're doing that, and that freelance is benefiting you like that. Have you read Joey Corman's book?
I have. That book is amazing. Everyone needs to read that book. That is like the Bible of going freelance.
I still need to implement so many of those techniques, but
even just implementing a tiny amount of what is in the book is so beneficial. I was freelance for like 6 months before that book came out, and like I was doing great, but like reading that book is just like supercharged, and it's been amazing. So if anyone's thinking about going freelance, that's like the Bible.
It's so cool to like design your own life, and like know how to come to clients with like here's my boundaries and my conditions. Like I don't want to work weekends. I don't want to do this kind of stuff. And it's a really cool life to have.
And it's awesome because you just have control over yourself and your work, and like you're a brand yourself. And like you're saying, if you're like, when I was full-time at an advertising agency, it's like, you work overtime, you do all this stuff. When you're like freelance, they're like coming to you because they want your work. And so you can set the parameters, and you can set the conditions around that. So it's amazing. But super recommend that book. It's so great.
So can you summarize like your talk for us? That it kind of blew my mind, because like again, you're combining these very MoGraphy techniques that I didn't know could work so well with Octane. Like I've seen them, with like physical render, but like even that, I've never seen anybody use that color shader node in Octane. And I often like am afraid of those like Cinema 4D nodes because they slow down the process a little bit. But that's really cool that you can get like you're using one procedural noise to like, and you're using the computer to give you all these emergent properties, basically. So this one procedural noise is driving not just like the displacement deformer, but also what else? Like the scale when they're and then the color and like the material and shit like that. So that was super cool.
I'm not sure when they added the MoGraph color shader to Octane. I think it was like a few versions ago, but because like I have a background in design, I feel like a lot of my work kind of like has that approach to it, and I'm like obsessed with like procedural stuff, because whenever I have to make something editable, I just panic. Like I always want to have like a back out, and so like procedural stuff is just really exciting to me. And I think also why procedural is so exciting to me is because like it allows the work to surprise you, right? Like you are setting up the parameters, you let it play out, but like it comes back to you alive. Like that's why I think 3D also really excites me, because when I was doing 2D animation, when I first started doing animation, I was doing After Effects stuff, and like it's so hands-on, you have so much control over it, which like you don't get as much of like discovery. You don't get those like really like exciting moments where it feels like you're like Dr. Frankenstein and you've like brought something to life, right?
Exactly. That's how I felt. Like, I don't know if you saw my recent forest tutorials or whatever, but like that stuff is so weird to me, because you like build this forest and whatever, but it's like semi-procedural, and then you're like, whoa, I made this whole freaking world and I can explore a camera through it, and I don't even know what's there, but I can find some cool composition like a photographer. You haven't discovered it yet. So the computer's giving you like, it's doing the hard work for you, and then like an artist, you get to go in and discover what cool shots are in there. it's pretty weird.
It is. And like you're saying, that's the stuff that just like super excites me. So a lot of my work is like kind of these procedural projects where setting up parameters and then kind of just seeing how they play out and stuff. And it is like, it is this weird, you feel like a kind of overlord thing where you're like building out this thing, and like you said, you're going through the forest and you like find something, you're like, I didn't know that was there, I didn't place that there.
Exactly.
So a lot of my work is like kind of a blend between at least like personal projects. I'm giving a talk on Wednesday on my like freelance commercial production workflow, so it's more like, you know, kind of commercial work, which is like, you know, this one's the funner one.
Yeah, this one's like the fun Instagram, like experimentation, mad science stuff for sure. Yeah, and then that cloner, like the blend stuff, I hadn't seen that before, how you were like blending. I'd seen the cloner used as a blend, but then using the plane effector to drive, you know, that, what is it, the displacement, but what's the parameter? The MoGraph, like effect clone, that's the one. So like where you're transitioning states, you know, and not just states. I had no idea you could transition using a mixed material in Octane, transition between two different material types. That was super cool.
Yeah, that's like just, you know, kind of where the experimentation exploration comes in. And like it's cool that like that type of stuff, like I learned that when just kind of playing around and just like seeing like, oh, does this work? Because I've, like you're saying, I've been scared of so many standard Cinema 4D nodes because you like plug them in, I'm like, this is never going to work. No, yeah. But like you plug them in and then it works and you're like, oh shit, this opens like a huge like doorway. And now I've used that on like different client projects and stuff. So I think it's like, you know, spending the time to just kind of do these different experiments and stuff has just been like super valuable.
Yeah, I only recently realized that like the layer shader, you know how you can use Cinema 4D's default layer shader, you can totally use that in Octane too, like for certain things. Yeah, like for scatter, you know, at one point I did this project with scattering a bunch of trees onto displacement, but then you can take like the displacement map and use it to displace the trees so they conform to the displacement, and then you can cull the tree line, like so it, you know, you don't want the trees necessarily on the very tops of the mountains, right? Because that's not realistic. So you can cull the tree line based on that same image, right? So you put that in a layer shader, and so it's not just a hard line. You can then pipe in a noise, a procedural noise as well, to get patches, and so the line's not super clean, and also getting the trees off the edges where they don't belong, where they're all at janky angles. So like, yeah, you can put that into a layer shader and then, you know, mix a bunch of noises with image textures. So that kind of stuff, I'm still like exploring and discovering more about Octane. Is crazy. I haven't even made that tutorial. I mean, so I've made the two nature ones, but this one I want to do like a snowy scene, like with like, you know, using World Machine and like those trees and stuff. But yeah, just another example of like the weird like combining the C4D default stuff with Octane is crazy.
Yeah, and like Octane is like, you know, I played around. No, I played around a little bit with Cinema 4D in like college because there's like a couple courses that we did, but I just like didn't dive into it too much because like I'm so ADD that like having to send to render and then wait and then fix a parameter was just like didn't really work for me. And then I hate it so much. So Octane's literally the reason that I got into 3D because I think like Ash Thorpe was posting about it when it was in like alpha, and so I started using it super early on, and then like as soon as I boot. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And so that was like the thing that like made me start using 3D because as soon as I started using it, it's like, oh, this is with my like ADD wavelength. Like it fits nice.
Still the biggest game changer that I've seen, and like same for me. Well, that's actually a really interesting story, what you just said, because I haven't heard people say, I got into 3D because of Octane. Like, I had to go through the slog of physical render and, like, staring at those buckets forming slowly, and just bang your head against the wall, and then, like, give up eventually. But when Octane came along, I'm like, oh, this can actually make this artistic and, like, an explorative process, like what you're talking about, you know? So that's really cool.
I had one of those instances in the college class where I had to render out this, like, super, 300 DPI poster for a project, and I almost failed the class because it was the final, and I couldn't render it on my machine. I sent it to a render farm, and even I had the settings all messed up, so it's like I had like a diamond and it was just like refracting a million times, and so the render like almost didn't finish before the final and almost failed my class, so that completely turned me off the Cinema 4D. And then when I started using Octane, I was like, oh, this is a game changer. I'm back in. But
yeah, and I took a look at some of your work too. I love the ad you did for Blank Repository with the exploding, bread and all that stuff. It reminded me of that scene from Inception where all of the, all the fruit and stuff at the cafe explodes. So, maybe talk a little bit about that project. And also, how did you do, like, the water? Did you use Hot 4D, or was it just, like, simple displacement deformer?
Yeah, I'll be talking a little bit about that project on Wednesday, I think. And, so they, like, came to me and was, like, kind of just, like, blue sky brief of, like, whatever you want to do with all our scans. And so I kind of, like, the concept behind it was just like kind of how it felt when I first like scrolled through the website of just like all these beautiful foods, like this online buffet that's like fresh for the picking, and they're all kind of frozen in time. So I tried to like, illustrate that. And then I'm glad you brought up the Inception thing, because that's like totally what I was inspired from. That scene is like amazing. So I was like, I think when I was building, I was kind of building up the buffet, and then like I either like watched that movie recently or something, but I was totally inspired by that. But I think the water was just like kind of standard displacement stuff. But like all the and that project really like pushed at the time my machine to like the limits, because I had to load all like 70 different food models with all the textures and everything.
And the Forester stuff that you had going on in the background. It was a big scene, and I like those. I'm gravitated towards those like more fully realistic, like epic scenes,
Yeah. I feel like a lot of like my personal work is like more kind of designy, just like kind of like design colors and compositions. But like a lot of my like client work, I'm the same way. I love like natural environments. I love like kind of like having this kind of bigger scale of things and stuff. And even that project was maybe like a year and a half ago, and like seeing it, I was like putting together a presentation, and it's always the thing where you're like looking back and you're like, oh man, I could have done this like so much.
It still looks beautiful, and then like that, it shows like your versatility, that you're able to do these like more like designy things, and then also expand to these larger scale projects. So that's something that I would encourage a lot of freelancers to like try to get out of their comfort zone. And the trap with Instagram is plateauing and making the same thing over and over. It's really fun to explore and like get into a style, but then also you want to reach outside your comfort zone sometimes and like try to create something very different, like maybe emulate somebody else's style or something like that.
Yeah, honestly, and I think that's where like once again, like the ADD is kind of like advantageous, because it's like I'll do one thing and then I'm just like, I'm kind of bored of this, I don't want to do it again. So then it takes like 6 more projects to kind of get back to the thing, and then by that point you have like some new insights on how to approach whatever style you're doing again. So I always try to kind of cycle out different looks and different like approaches to things, because I honestly just get bored. But it's a good point saying that like if find people that you're inspired by, and and like kind of like create work that's in the same realm as that, or just there's a ton of different ways to kind of just refreshing yourself rather than get like stuck in a corner.
Yeah, same thing goes with like software. Like it's often very difficult to push yourself to learn new stuff, but it looks like you're like pretty versed in Turbulence FD, I noticed, based on your reel. And like I was curious how you did some of those fluid sims as well, whether it was like Real Flow or whether you've gotten into Houdini at all, because that it seems like you're branching out to a lot of different software. And for me, that's like much more like I'm often lazy and I just want to down more and more tutorials that are like Octane, Cinema 4D, because I can breeze through them. But the hard work is sitting down and really learning some new software and getting outside your comfort zone that way.
Yeah, I have a friend that's in a band, like a guitarist, and he told me something one time that really stuck with me, of that like there's a difference between jamming out and practicing, right? Like there's like, it's like what you're saying, it's like always so hard for me, because I used to just like jam out, like you're just like doing your thing, you're just having fun making different stuff, and that's a huge difference compared to like sitting down and like practicing chords or like practicing scales. Like that's not fun, like that's not like the fun stuff. And so if it's like doing a nice blend in between the two. But like same thing, I'm like sometimes get lazy and it's like really hard to expand it to different things. But those fluid sims and smoke sims was actually Houdini. About a year ago, I think I like dove into it and started learning it, but like I got busy on some client projects, and so I haven't used it for a while, and it just like all goes out of your brain. So I'm like, as I have more time again, I'm gonna like dive back in, because Houdini is just like super powerful, and even just for like those volumetrics and fluid sims, it's just so fast. Like the sim time is really fast, and then just export it to Cinema 4D. And it's just like, compared to, I'd use Real Flow a bit, I use Turbulence FD, and like, they're just not I don't know, it's just, it's Exactly. Yeah, you don't get the same quality level. You don't get the same speed. So it's like it's worth the time investment.
I need to do it. I can't. Like, I tried to get into Houdini for like a few months at one point, and I hit a wall. But I think that the program has become more user-friendly in the past few years, because I'm seeing motion designers really embracing it, and I think there's more training out there for it for motion designers. Back when I was using it was like around like 2014 or 15, and it was more VFX. Like, all the tutorials were for VFX workflows, and so it was even more intimidating for me. But I think I need to get back into it. Yeah.
And like Intagma has like amazing stuff. It's so, like they like all their tutorials, I think, is like most of what I've learned. And just like even on Side Effects' website, they have like so many awesome tutorials. And like, yeah, and like you said, I feel like, you know, there's just so much documentation now that it kind of makes it easier. Because like if I had to just dive in by myself, I would never go.
It's like reinventing the wheel.
Yeah.
But I'll have to get your talk onto my Mega Octane Resources, page, because like so cool that you've just joined the community as an educator as well. That's so awesome, and your talk was super clean and like very easy to digest and really really well organized and laid out. So that was awesome.
Thank you, man. I'm a huge fan of you guys, and this is awesome, and love Octane. So thanks for having me.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, take care.
Yeah. See you guys later.
What's up, everyone? I am here with Sarah Wycliffe, closing off the day for our first day at NAB 2018 on the Maxon showroom floor. I loved your presentation.
Thank you very much.
It was extremely awesome. What I love that you were able to show off, some more simple stuff within Cinema 4D, but you also had this great like how to do it in a comedic way. I just loved it. I thought it was great. So let's talk a little bit. I'm sorry, I forgot your title again.
It's a graphics producer.
Okay, and which show do you work for again? It's the
Rundown with Robin Thede. It airs Thursday nights on BET.
Awesome. So it's a comedy show, and so in your talk, you talked a little bit about like. Ripping things off so much but no, without getting sued.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Give us a little bit of insight into that process. Like, at what point do you know it's too far?
That's a very good question, and the answer is that it's actually different at every show. It really depends on how active your show's lawyers are, and at the Rundown they are particularly careful, and so things that I could have gotten away with at other shows, I cannot. And so, for example, we can only use Adobe Typekit fonts.
Oh, really?
Things that are, like Font Squirrel, DaFont, anything, even if it's, considered public domain. Their whole thing is that they have to vet every individual license. And so with Typekit, they only have to vet one license for this whole package. So that's why it's kind of safe to use those, but it's not really worth it. As for where the line is in regards to parody, often if something looks too close, and it's hard to predict for us what's going to be too close, we send every single graphic to our lawyers to vet. Yeah. But that's based on, we had like a Eat, Pray, Love parody that we did, and we actually had a Stranger Things one as well. Okay. And with those two in particular, they were pretty close, but we were asked to change the shape of a couple of the letters, because if the font shape is really similar, that's one thing that's going to kind of set them off. Oftentimes just changing the color of something is good enough. Okay. But then if you look at, I don't know if any of your audience watches John Oliver.
I love John Oliver. Yeah.
So last weekend there was the Tot Bench segment. It was the parody of the show Hot Bench. And if you it's a real courtroom show. If you put Tot Bench and Hot Bench together, they are nearly identical. But the difference is that rather than a gavel, there's like an outline of a kid in gold. And so I thought about actually showing that one as an example. Like, this is how another show does it. I didn't do it, so it didn't really feel right. But that's how close it is. And the thing is that's what makes it read. That, if it was a deviation, it might the audience might think, what are you talking about?
Yeah, you want it recognizable, but not so much to the point where you get sued.
Right.
I guess.
And you want it to be recognizable immediately because these things go by really fast. So you're playing on this memory that we all have of what these graphics look like, and you kind of have to rip it off to do it. So
let me ask you this: that's got to be difficult because you're under extremely tight time constraints. Now I don't know. With previous jobs, you said you'd have as little as 2 hours to make this stuff. I'm assuming you've got a little bit more time with the current job you're with. I would hope, but I would think that getting these done first and then sending them over to lawyers to get approved. Are there some that just say no? That's too close. You got to just scrap it.
Well, there's always a way to fix it. So, this example isn't really about something that I did in cinema, but we do a lot of Photoshops. And so there is another aspect of it when you're looking at any graphic where there are prisoners, even if they are people that are on Getty Images in a prison outfit. If you are insinuating editorially that this person was a felon for some reason, you can't show their face. Okay. And so another example is I don't remember what the joke was, but they wanted to do a joke about 20 gay men on a parade float. Okay. And so we cut out 20 men and we made this big crazy parade float, and then the lawyer said you can't insinuate that these stock photo people are gay. And our response to that was by putting masks and sunglasses on all of them, because as long as you don't see their face, it's all right. The other thing, though, the other way that you avoid this, if you can't cover their face totally or just don't want to do it that way, is you use the staff. You put your face...
Oh, that's hilarious.
So that's why you'll see, one of the assistant directors I work with, he's in almost every John Oliver episode. He's in Samby all the time, like, oh, there he is, okay. And it's not just because it's like a fun little, Easter egg for us. It's also just a legal thing.
That's so funny. So do these people have to sign their rights to allow them to use their face?
You're supposed to, yeah. Okay. But sometimes it's just going through a Facebook and choosing one, and you're like, you're okay with this, right? I didn't do that on my show. I've never done that before. If you're watching, I don't do that. Other people do that.
That is hilarious. That is really funny. Okay, so let's completely switch gears. You, along with a couple other women within who are presenting for Maxon, today participated in a Women in MoGraph panel. Can you give me a little bit of background about that? Maybe, it's Women in MoGraph, so that's the title of the name, so we kind of get it. But, just give me a little bit more information about it.
So it was a really, really great discussion, and we're going to have that online in a couple weeks, probably. But the background is that you may have noticed that MoGraph is a little bit, especially 3D in particular, is kind of a male-dominated industry. And I really applaud Maxon for taking the effort to reach out to women and have them participate more this year. Maybe hear some voices that don't normally get heard. And I think that's kind of what the panel was about, was just starting this conversation. It really seemed like the right time, given all the hubbub about Me Too, Harvey Weinstein. This has definitely been the year of, pay attention to how we're all communicating and gender parity and equal pay and all that kind of stuff. This is the year for it, and Maxon's right on target by acknowledging and giving us a forum. So,
and there may be some... I don't know, there may be some male gender biases out there. I don't know how I'm trying to phrase this. What I'm trying to say is, basically, there may be some women out there who are worried about, getting into 3D because they may see it as a male-dominated, or a majority male career. Do you have any advice for women who are trying to get into this industry that might help them either succeed or maybe not focus so much on that, but more focus on doing the work? Does that make sense?
Sure, yeah. I definitely have some advice. I was one of those women. For a while, I was in this graphics department, and they were all guys, and it all seemed like they knew what they were talking about, and I would just let them do the big, shiny, crazy stuff because I was so afraid of asking questions. I was kind of I knew I could open it up and figure out a little bit, but when I would find myself asking a lot of questions, I was self-conscious of looking like this stupid girl. And there's a little bit of like, she throws like a girl, there's this perception that, perhaps women might not pick up on technical things as fast, or, hey, let me help you with that. And when you don't get something right away, I think it's actually really easy to feed into that in your own head, even though that might not be what all the guys that you're hanging out with are actually thinking about you. It's easy for women to internalize that and feed on the biases that are already present in our culture and let that stop them. And, it was only when I had to move on to another job where I was the only designer that would do any 3D at all, even if it was limited, that I kind of just had to put on my big girl pants and, do some tutorials and figure it out. And, by just forcing myself to get into that uncomfortable place of learning and not picking up something right away, but continue trying and working at it, and not really having people around who, honestly might have just only wanted to help, but made me feel self-conscious, made me feel like I might look stupid. By just doing it myself and doing it over and over again, it gave me the confidence to get in there and now hold my own with, no matter who I'm working with. I still haven't been working with the program that long. I have a lot to learn. But my advice is to just don't be scared. It's not rocket science. This is actually a really, really supportive community. And always reach out and ask questions. And if you are feeling ignored or passed over, or want to go for an opportunity but don't want to look like a bitch or something like that, get out there and be aggressive, because guys aren't thinking about it. I'm going to look like a bitch if I do that. No. So keep up. Just attack it with the same vigor that your male counterparts would, and yeah, go get it.
So here, now to switch things to a different question, me as a male, maybe sometimes I don't realize that I am unintentionally, and I'm sure there's a lot of men out there within this industry who are doing that, Is there any advice, I don't think I've ever heard this question asked, is there any advice that you would give to men in order to, understand that this is an issue? Because it's some may not see it as an issue until it's brought right in front of their eyes. Is there any advice that you could give to men in order to be like, hey, dude, get with the program. Realize there's a problem.
Right. I see it on both sides of the issue. So, first of all, don't just assume. This is fairly obvious, and I'm sure a lot of people don't assume this. But just because you're working with a woman, that she's not going to know the same kind of technical stuff that you do. Yeah. There were some things that we talked about in the panel. Some of my counterparts on there had experiences where they would be told by a superior, "Hey, let me have this guy come over and explain this to you," or one of the artists was supervising a team and came over and was told, hey, help this guy out. It seems like he's struggling to set up the render farm. And she had done it before. He was brand new. He was very combative with her at first. And it kind of took her proving herself that she actually knew what she was talking about for him to actually pay attention to what she was saying and not give her a little bit of an attitude. So don't just assume that because somebody is female that, we're a novice or something like that. At the same time, I had an experience yesterday when I was prepping for my presentation where right after I finished my rehearsal, a really well-intentioned guy came up to me and said, hey, just a tip, you might want to hold shift when you rotate something because it'll snap. And I hadn't been doing that. I was sort of screwing up when I was rotating something and taking too long. And, it was a really helpful tip, and I didn't perceive it as being aggressive, but I had already been feeling so stressed out that I flubbed that moment that I was like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. And women often suffer from much more of a lack of confidence than men do, especially when it comes to doing something that's very technical in a big group of people doing the same kind of thing. But the really funny and like the great part about this is that the guy came up to me later that night at dinner, and he was like, hey, I hope I didn't come off like a jerk by telling you this tip. I just really wanted to help out. And like, I knew that he wanted to help out. And so what was happening is that in his mind, he was writing the movie like, oh man, I must have sounded like an aggressive jerk. And in my mind, I was thinking, oh man, I look so stupid. And so, together, I guess we can all just say, don't write the movie in your own head. Right. Just come to work, do your best, and just be honest with each other. And, it goes for the guys. Don't make assumptions about the ladies. Don't interrupt them. That's a big thing. Women hate being interrupted, and it does happen more often. So please let them finish. Just respect each other and make some graphics.
Yeah. I can imagine. I think as mographers, we all have this this fear that we're all just we're faking it until we make it, And I can imagine that can be amplified when you've got someone kind of pushing at you or something like that, or Anyway, yes, I understand.
Oh yeah, I went home and I Googled how to get over imposter syndrome.
Yeah, that's what it is. Imposter syndrome. That's what I was trying to say. Yeah, a lot of us have that, you know, and I can imagine that, being in a situation like that, it can be just absolutely, exponentially, it can feel exponentially worse, Anyway. All right. Where can people get a hold of you online?
So my website is sarahwickliffe.com. That's just my full name spelled out, SARAHWICKLIFFE. You can hit me up on my website, and I don't have much going on my Instagram right now, but that'll change when my show goes on break, and hopefully I have time to screw around and make some art. So,
thank you so much. More coming up probably the next day. We got a ton more to do. We got 3 more days to do it. So make sure to be watching for more interviews on the NAB 2018 floor at the Maxon booth. Peace out.
What's up, everybody? David Ariev, a.k.a. Octane Jesus, here with Raid Zero, a.k.a. Phil Roberts, a.k.a. Raid Zero here. Raid Zero just did his amazing talk on basically his first year of getting into Cinema 4D and all of the steps that he took to adopt these new workflows and things like that. And he had this really interesting background of being a creative retoucher for 9 years before he decided to make the jump into Cinema 4D. And this is a super interesting story to me because he got to the top of his game over the course of 9 years, and then all of a sudden, decided he wanted to be a motion designer. He wasn't as creatively fulfilled by the work. It was getting more technical. So tell us a little bit about that, a little bit about yourself. Raid Zero.
Thanks. So kind of the creative retouching towards the end of my career just got very much managerial, and I wasn't doing any creative work, and making the jump into cinema was kind of just a creative outcry. So that was I knew a lot about 3D and Cinema 4D at the time, so it was just the right fit for me at the time. So yeah, I just jumped right in and started doing 2D stuff because I kind of knew what I was doing in that sort of situation. But having the photography background definitely helped kind of speed that process up. Totally. And then kind of the next step was moving into animation and kind of learning, and still learning now how to do that.
Totally, man.
Yeah.
Let me have my mic back. God, can't no. So it was funny because we were doing the Brograph podcast, and then this guy Raid Zero kept popping up. And it pissed us off because we were like, he just got into Cinema 4D and Octane, and how is his stuff looking this good? So we were like, every time you release something new, we're like, what the hell? Why is Raid Zero so good? This guy just got into it. So, yeah. Don't ask me that. No, that's not even a question. I'm just letting you know. But no, the interesting thing to me is that, so for 9 years you were with this company and you didn't really create this persona for yourself. And I feel like a lot of freelancers, their identity gets wrapped up into a company, right? And they don't put themselves out there. They don't go to networking events, so they don't get very widely known. That doesn't have anything to do with your skill level. You got to the top of your game with Photoshop and all this stuff. But once you decided to, become Raid's hero, you like started taking steps to teach yourself outside of just the day-to-day. You're learning this extra stuff. You bought a Razer laptop, right, with a GPU, and now you've custom built your own machine as well. So you've gotten into this more freelancer mindset a year before you even jump freelance, which you now are. Does that have to do you think, with the mentality of this community that's like solo artists that are like these renegade dudes that are like posting on Instagram and just doing things themselves, and they've all got these personas, and it's fun,
Exactly, yeah. I definitely. Okay, I won't. I definitely wanted to separate. So the Phil Roberts side of things is kind of I'm associated with where I was working. So that's kind of why I created the whole Raid Zero thing, and it was just my own thing. Nobody else's, nothing to do with the work, where I worked, and so that's why I created that basically.
It's really hard. It takes a lot of guts to step off that cliff and become a freelancer, even if you're extremely good. Like you are with those retouching skills, you can get retouch freelance work at a much higher rate whenever you want, and you were still on the fence for a really long time about whether you wanted to do it or not. But are you happy with that decision so far? And it's, I guess you're still you're still at the company a little bit, but
I literally got 2 weeks left when I get back, and then I'm booked for May the 1st, so which is great basically. And it was really scary, and I had a lot of chats with the wife, and what we're going to do if this and this. But ultimately, I kind of very early on, seeing all you guys and how well you're doing in freelance and the kind of work that you're doing, it was kind of paving the way for where I was going to end up. So I kind of for the past few months just been saving a few pounds here and there, just so I've got a buffer when I start off basically.
Well, and it's awesome that you're basically kicking off your freelance career by presenting at NAB not once but twice. So that's pretty badass.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
And I love that your talk was really inspirational to, a good half of it was just, inspirational to people just getting in, why Cinema 4D and Octane 2 are these really easy to pick up tools, and, how they allowed you to make beautiful imagery, pretty quickly right out of the gate.
Yeah, so, having a photographic background, taking imagery that's already been shot in camera and kind of blending them together to make one coherent image, having that instant feedback, Octane, as soon as I saw it, it was just what? Because obviously my background and the studio, they use CPU renders and render farms, and it takes hours and hours and hours just to get one image out. So, and they're obviously just sending things to the farm, you have to wait a while for it to come back, and then even when I started getting into it, I was having my laptop at work and showing these guys, and they're just I can't believe it. They just couldn't. They're
all jealous because you've got this fast and flexible Cinema 4D and then Octane. You're just do this and blah blah blah, and there it is.
I definitely like how quick and easy it is to learn cinema, and Octane's kind of, I guess, sped up my learning process.
Yeah, that's so awesome. Cool. So talk a little bit about. Let's talk a bit about your talk. I loved just the simple, again, following those simple things that you can do to make shots look so much better. With the POV thing, you just rip the head off, right, and put the camera where his head is, and then you've got linear keyframes that would look pretty bad, but then you put a vibrate tag on it, and all of a sudden it looks good. So you're showing these pretty simple things that can just super aid, the look, basically.
Yeah, I think just having that. Following the rules of realism, that's the kind of thing I'll always start with. So I'll start with a point of realism, and then try and recreate that in whatever I'm doing. So I knew that if I'm having a first person kind of view, I want to have a more kind of natural camera and like I want to feel the weight of his helmet. You know, if that camera is his eyes, I want the audience to feel like there is an actual helmet on his head. You know, so using the vibrate tag like helps you just really quickly just add rotation and a bit of like kind of wiggle in the camera movement, and just thinking about how you want your character to kind of move within the scene as well.
Yeah, that weight, like when the rocket boosters kick in, thinking, oh, this would kick this dude's head back. Thinking about those physics and how they would affect the camera, like that's cinematography stuff, and that's obviously with your background of like looking at these images. That I'd say that 50% at least of the picture of like developing imagery and making convincing, pretty looking stuff is your taste. So you've been honing your taste for all these years. So it makes sense why we were so pissed off when you burst out of the gates like a monster. Yeah. Yeah, man. So let's what else? Like, you excited about Octane 4?
Oh yeah, really, really excited. Yeah, like just seeing the talks from Jules and him being on the Brograph podcast as well. Like it being 100 times faster. Like how is that even possible? And all the things with AI noise, and they're just going to speed everything up even more, and just be able to like. I've only got 2 GPUs in my machine at the moment. I know, and now it's getting to the point where those frames you're going to just be able to just let them samples go down and down and down, and it's going to clean up and it'll look great.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost like, why did I invest in all my GPUs if it's just going to be like this game engine all of a sudden? And like, yeah, but I mean, it's fine. Like especially with the volumetric stuff, I feel like that's going to take longer for, them to release the volumetric denoiser. So we'll see. Like, I mean, I shouldn't be upset that they're making it so accessible and fast. It really frees us up to art direct even better and focus purely on the art, the composition. Here's another thing I remembered that I wanted to talk to you about. So I thought it was really smart when you were showing your raid city that it wasn't purely Octane scatter. A lot of the time I fall in the trap where, say I build a forest or a city, and then I'm like, cool, I've got this environment. Now I want to explore it. And I like run around like a little cinematographer and find a cool composition. But that's not thinking about the fact that I could also design a little bit too. So it's kind of like the difference between someone running outside with a camera into a city or a forest and taking pretty pictures and getting all excited, and someone who's like, actually, I'm going to build a set. So that's more what you were doing there, is like, you're like, okay, this is great for the background buildings and filling out the detail, but to make the composition better, I want my foreground buildings to be the hero buildings and like leave those in there as geometry rather than this random procedural stuff. So I think that's a really good thing to keep in mind.
Yeah. So I think that's coming from being on photographic shoots, right, and just kind of directing people where they need to be, and you have background elements and you also have foreground elements that's ultimately what you want to shoot. So I want to be in full control of that. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it was great talking to you, man, and I'm really excited to see your even more advanced tutorial talk tomorrow. So, yeah, and also always great to see you. I'm so glad you're in town. You came all the way over here. So awesome, and I'm sure you're like still jet lagged and sleep deprived. Yeah, so I'm feeling it, and I'm in the same time zone, so you must be just dying. Cool, man. Great talking to you.
What's up, everybody? We are here with Penelope Niederlander. She just finished presenting a little bit ago. Fantastic job, by the way.
Thank you very much.
One thing that I really like about your work, and I was unaware, now I know you've done a ton of these like title sequences. Like a crazy amount of title sequences.
I've done a few, yeah.
I wasn't aware. Like I knew I met you at Brograph, and you showed me the tick title sequence that you did, yep. And then the one that you just presented on was which one? What was the name of the show?
Tales from the Tour Bus, Mike Judge's show.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and so when you were showing off your reel, which is killer, by the way. I didn't realize that, like, you're like, oh, I've done this for Kung Fu Panda and so on and so on. I was like, wow, you got an awesome, like, portfolio of work.
Thank you. Yeah, no. Well, working for Shine, that's like one of their primary things. And they've, Michael and Bob go back to the RGA days. They worked there, and then they've, I think they worked at Imaginary Forces for a while, and they broke off and did their own company. And so they've really just been in that business for so long that they have these great connections, and they really just do consistent good work for titles. It's awesome.
So give me just a basic rundown of your whole presentation for those who couldn't catch it on C4D Live and then will not, because there's a small gap there between when it's live and then when it gets released. So just a little rundown of it. You don't have to do the whole thing.
Okay. Well, I didn't get super in the weeds on the details of it. I really wanted to break down my process more than worry on the details, So I did a section on modeling, a section on animation, and a section on using Cineware and After Effects to sort of edit it without rendering. So when I got that project and I looked at the boards, I saw the bus and I was like, well, I'm going to have to model a bus. I looked for one online and I'm like, no, there's no 1970s tour buses. And then they gave me a reference and I'm like, oh, it's a specific bus. And that they drew, not a physical one. So I was like, well, that's going to be important. That's an important detail that I have to nail. So I'm going to start with that. And so we went over the basic modeling starting points, how I got going and the tools that I used of primitives, making them editable, using subdivision surfaces, and symmetry and Boolean. I use that for 90% of that whole modeling.
Yeah. I thought the subdivision surface part was cool. You don't see a lot of people doing the subdiv modeling, which most people are just simple box modeling and then bevel where they need to, the hard surface modeling. But I don't know. Since learning about the subdiv stuff, I don't know. It's way cool. Sorry.
Well, no, but the thing is, if you have a little more creative freedom in terms of what it looks like, I guess it makes sense to bake things down and work on the beveling and stuff. But I was worried I would have to change a lot of it, and I didn't want to just do a lot of point selection and dragging and stuff like that. I wanted to keep it as live as possible for as long as possible. The more that I could keep something a primitive, the better. The more I could keep it subdivision surface and not put in bevels and chamfers and stuff, the better. Yeah. Cool.
So talk to me about Rooster Teeth. You work for Rooster Teeth, right?
I do.
What's your official title?
I am a compositor in the animation department. Well, I have an unofficial title right now. So I've been working on Ruby. That's when I went in there. I started freelancing for live action for 6 weeks on their show $1 Million Butt, which was a lot of fun. Super fast turnaround, but just fun graphics. And then I saw a posting for compositor, and I'm like, well, I've composited. I'm not a compositor, but I'll composite. And we use After Effects. Our pipeline gives us all the assets we need and all the nulls and everything. And we use mostly just After Effects plugins to get the desired effects, but we want it to be cartoony, like an anime, live in that world, but be cool. And Rooster Teeth is a great company for being an artist because mostly I've worked for studios who work for clients or directly for clients. And my first week, someone said, don't stress on this too much. Cool is king here. Make it look cool, and they'll be down.
That's awesome. And because most people are really worried about just getting it out. Get it done. You don't have to worry about that. But whatever, that's cool.
But if you do something that doesn't quite fit, they'll give you notes. But if it just looks cool, the leadership is not super into making sure they think about everything ahead of time. They really give you artistic license. But we're working on a new show called Genlock, and
they're really excited about Genlock.
I know, right? Me too. And that's a giant mech robot show, and it's the same thing. We're doing it with a 3D pipeline and a tune shading, and then we're compositing it the same. But it's futuristic. It's 2050 or something like that. And my sort of unofficial thing right now is lead FUI designer. Yeah, so I get to design the look of these 5 totally different styles of UIs that are going to exist in the show.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and it's all from scratch. We're doing we're early on it was proposed we can just buy UIs, right? And
no, you got to make them all.
No, we're here. We're artists, so it's been a lot of fun. Yeah.
Okay, so moving to another subject, you were one of the female representatives on the Women in MoGraph panel yesterday, right?
That's true.
Yeah, that is true. So tell me a little bit about the panel and maybe your thoughts on that whole process, or the whole maybe the whole panel. I guess I don't know. I wasn't there. I wanted to be, but I was running the booth.
How dare you? What a man.
I know, right?
You're the problem. No, it was a really positive experience. This being my first NAB with Maxon, and I feel like I've been NAB before. I can't remember, but I noticed my first day yesterday coming over that I was on one of the monorail cars, and I was like, oh, I'm curious. I only see me and Robin and one other woman on here, and I counted. I'm 35 people, 3 women on this whole monorail, and I'm like, that is what this conference is going to be like, probably. And it is. It's very male dominated, and it's not just the motion industry. It's just broadcast in general. But even in motion, I haven't worked with many women over the past, in Los Angeles or Austin or wherever I've worked. So doing this panel, just from my personal experience, has been really cool because I'm hanging out with some really cool women, and I'm not getting that sense. And that really, to me, demonstrates how important it is to have multiple women. You just have one token woman. You have to act different when you're the only woman with a bunch of guys. And so that was cool. But the panel, we had a whole bunch of questions. Tuesday was moderating, and she was awesome. Paul Babb was really cool. He introduced it, and he had such a great story to how it went down. How he was we've gotten some negativity, some complaints about not having enough women represented, presenting. And he's at first I was mad about it. And then he's that's not constructive. Why don't I listen to this and do something about it? And I was oh my God, that's so great. And he's I didn't want to moderate it. Someone wanted me to moderate it, but I got Tuesday to do it because, you know what? It shouldn't be me. It should be, and he had that thing about amplifying the voice of other people as opposed to being the voice. And so just kudos to him for that. It was a really refreshing environment to be in.
Is there any advice that you would give, men within this industry may not realize that they're being inclusive or exclusive? I don't know which one it is, exclusive. Yeah. Is there anything we may not realize we are? Is there anything that both men and women can do in order to increase this awareness and also the to bring more women to promote more women into this industry?
Absolutely. So if I can micro focus, one of the things that I heard the most from the women on the panel, I'd say, was about confidence, and that and this is what's that word? Systemic thing. It's how men and women are raised. Boys and girls are raised. Women are not raised to be as outwardly confident, and to be a little demure, and men are. And what you see is a lot of what our industry is, and a lot of industries, I'd imagine. Confidence really comes through when you're trying to get a job, you should definitely put that foot forward, or if you have the job and you're presenting ideas. I think that women might be inclined to be less trusted by men who are used to men presenting more confidence. I read an article recently that was a survey, and that in some given environment, and I think it was maybe a doctorate program or something like that, I think it was a school, men were more likely to believe, to think that men were more capable and were performing better. And they if you ask who's performing better, men or women, and the men would be men. It was more refined than this, and I don't remember. But then they polled the results, and the women were 53% doing better. So it wasn't even 50-50 performance. It was the women were actually performing a little bit better than the men, but even they thought that they weren't as good. And so And that's like a weird thing.
I talked about this with Sarah yesterday during her interviews, and she said, sometimes as a woman within this industry, you're so surrounded by men that you can kind of get a little self-conscious about your work and stuff like that, and us as men kind of like amplify that. For that, I apologize for all men everywhere. But that's very interesting, especially with the confidence part about trying to stay confident, I guess.
And I'm not trying to let you off the hook here since you decided to represent all men, but I have noticed that even though I would say if you asked most women, they would see this as a problem, they would recognize this, I think women are part of the system. And one time that irked me was being having a problem with a thing, and I was trying to work it out, and the producer immediately thought, can I get a guy over here? Can I get one of the guys over here? And she was a woman. You know what I mean? I've had a situation recently where 2 new employees at a company I worked at, the woman was a lot quieter, and the man wasn't. And and he had even more experience. But in the end, when it all shook out, she worked way harder, way longer, and had better results than him. But I found myself not instinctively, but kind of automatically, because she wasn't confident outwardly, thinking she needed more help. And been oh, well, he's fine. He's done this before, and he seems confident that he can do it. And she was I don't know, I've never done this before. Why did I listen to that? I should have just looked at I'm not a lead, so I don't see it, but that's my bad.
Any advice you can give to women within this industry to help boost that confidence? Women that are already in the industry, it's a toughie. I think that you have to treat people at different levels in the industry, at different stages, differently. Because I think that being systemic, it's really good to encourage girls that are coming up in school, and women that are in college, encourage them to be more outwardly willing to take risks and be confident, and in a way that is a little different for women that are currently doing it, and there's some problems that aren't even really necessarily within the hands of women. We can all help each other, but everyone's got to pitch in. But most companies are owned by men and creative directed by men, and so do what you can, and have the confidence to maybe start your own company and believe in yourself. But we really need to make a push, like we're doing in STEM fields, to get girls more comfortable working in the field and not just it's not just the field, right? Right now at Rooster Teeth, I'm noticing a lot of women that are working with me are very technically adept, and they love video games. And I'm I swear to God, that's huge. 3D mapping skills disassociated from your own eyeballs and head is that's part of your 10,000 hours of experience. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, if you're playing Overwatch or whatever, and you started out playing Zelda or something like that, you're developing skills, and boys do it more than girls. And so not discouraging girls from playing video games, not making it seem like it's not cool for a girl to do that. That Gamergate stuff is important for this reason. It's not just about games. It's about the technical fields and the artistic fields.
That's interesting. That's a take I haven't heard before. That's really good.
That's my hot take.
Yeah, that was good. All right. Thank you so much. NAB 2018 on the showroom floor. Brograph, I designed this. Penny Niederlander. Where can they find you online?
Oh, you can find me online. My website is pennyzee.com, so pennyzee.com. I am on Twitter at Baffled by Foxes, on Instagram at Fifi Namanon. Thank you. It's I just made a Twitter and I'm 39. I was it's too late to think of a name. But yeah, and that's it. You can see the work we're doing at roosterteeth.com. We have a brand new SVOD site for all of our content, and it's a really cool community. And Ruby is awesome, and Genlock. Check Genlock out. Even if you don't necessarily into anime, it's really going to be good.
Well, they get to see your work.
And you get to see my work.
Awesome. All right, guys, stick around for more on the NAB showroom floor.
What's up, everybody? This is Liam Klitschum at NAB 2018. I'm here with Nate Rodriguez-Vera, a big name. He was here yesterday giving a presentation. He's hanging around the Maxon booth, and I'm just going to ask him a few questions about how he got started and what he's doing in the industry. So I know yesterday you kind of gave a background about how you got started with music and then went into this. So can you tell the audience, too, that's watching, just like a quick snippet of what you told us yesterday?
Sure. First of all, hi. Yeah, basically, so I was working as a DJ, producer, eventually became more interested in doing sound design, things of that sort. But anyways, like during that time period, I started becoming more aware of the connections between music and visuals, right? A lot of people who are DJs, musicians, other performers kind of want to have like a tight like brand. So sometimes if they are, say, signed on to a big label, the label will take care of that. But most of the times, if you're more of like an independent musician, you kind of just have to take control of that yourself. So that's how eventually I started teaching myself to use like the usuals like Photoshop, Illustrator, After Effects. Did that for a while. Eventually just became a little bored with the whole like 2D world, and that turned into me like searching for a couple of options, tried a couple of like different like 3D applications. Didn't really click for me until I was introduced to Cinema 4D by a friend, and then that's when it all clicked, and it's been history since then, you know.
So something that blew my mind yesterday was hearing that you've been doing it just for like 2 years, and you got started in Cinema 4D Lite, and then moved over, right?
Yeah, so exactly. So I had Creative Cloud, and I had After Effects, and through After Effects I had access to Cinema 4D Lite. So, you know, I'm a strong proponent for paying for your software, right? So the only Cinema 4D version that I had access to was Lite. So I jumped into it, and also it was a good way to kind of just like not get too crazy because I didn't know how it was going to go. And yeah, this was literally January 2016 that I made the jump to that, and immediately I used it, and I think like the very first time, even though the first things I made were not great, but it made sense, and I got hooked, and eventually wound up buying studio and just went all in, yeah.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about your process now, because you told us a little bit and showed like your first renders and where you're at now, and myself mostly doing Redshift tutorials. I know that you're doing Redshift, but you've kind of done like the gamut a little bit too, of like starting with standard, and then I think you were an Octane user for a little bit, right? And then you went to Redshift. So can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so I started out with standard, then I started trying out physical for a while. I was like happy with physical for a while. I thought it was great, but eventually I kind of like was lacking that speed, right? That, like I wanted to be able to, because that's one of the big things about Cinema 4D. You get to create fast, and I also wanted to be able to render fast. So I actually jumped from physical into Cycles 4D, and did that for a while, and I still like it a lot, especially when I'm doing X-particle specific stuff. But then I tried Redshift. I tried Octane for a little while, and I liked it for certain things, but I clicked more with Redshift when I tried it out. I had also experimented a little bit with Arnold, but I just didn't have a powerful enough computer for it to render quickly. So Redshift kind of felt like it was like this weird hybrid brother of Arnold that was like GPU powered, like super fast, with the benefit of being biased. So you could like run through all these little cheats to make your renders a lot faster, and I thought that was great. And now I use them all interchangeably, but I would say still like Redshift is maybe like 90% of what I use. Yeah.
So do you keep most of what you're doing in camera when you're working in Redshift, or do you have like a post-production, like you go into Photoshop and start manipulating stuff there? Or what's your split with that?
Yeah, normally I do a little bit of post. I'm like super averse to doing all this like multipass and AOVs and all this stuff, mainly because I am kind of lazy about it. Yeah. I'll just like try and do like a straight beauty pass and then bring it into After Effects if it's animated, and then apply effects, just post-production there, or if it's a still, I'll bring it into Photoshop, tighten it up there. I know I should probably get more into doing AOVs and multipass, but again, I'm just kind of lazy.
Yeah, well, that was the name of your talk too yesterday, which was really interesting. And what I really liked about it too is you were really explaining to the audience that you can take simple shapes and build very dynamic compositions with just a few little bits, and maybe you can tell them about that too, just like your idea behind what you're doing with your work and keeping it as simple as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I've always been a sucker for simplicity. Even when I was doing 2D design, I always kept things kind of minimal, kind of easy. I liked that kind of like raw, almost like cut up and pasted on like aesthetic. And when I went 3D, I was like, well, I wanted to look a little more polished, but I still like the idea of taking all these simple shapes like primitives or stuff like booleans and things like that, and just creating either like structures, scenes, etc. I guess in a way it just kind of takes me back to being a kid and taking blocks and like, building stuff out, and that's just kind of like always been my favorite way of working. And then of course like using mostly then relying on materials and lighting to then bring out the realism in some way, so it doesn't just look like geometry thrown into a scene, right? What was the second part of the question? I'm sorry.
You pretty much covered it. So how about for just a little wrap-up, where can people find you, and where are you most active? Are you on Twitter, Instagram, or your website? What do you want to throw out there?
Yeah, I would say the easiest way to find me and my most active outlet is Instagram right now. But I'm everywhere. I'm Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Tumblr. It's all the same. It's at SomeNerve, so SOMENERV, or my website is somenerve.com.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Nate. I appreciate it. I really enjoyed your talk yesterday, and thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, this is Liam Clisham at NAB 2018. I'm here with Billy Chitkin, and we're just hanging out at the Maxon booth talking about everything motion design. So if you don't know who Billy is, he was on Redshift Live a few weeks ago, about a month ago, and I'm going to let him introduce himself. Tell us about your background, where you're from, and what you're doing with motion design and Cinema 4D.
Yeah, my name's Billy, obviously. I'm a freelance 3D guy based out of Detroit, Michigan. I've been going about 6 months now and going pretty good, just enjoying life. Freelancing's pretty cool. It affords the opportunity to travel and do cool stuff like hang out at NAB here and, put faces to names, network a little bit, have fun. Yeah, it's been a blast so far.
So speaking of networking, who have you met that you've never met before that you were really excited to meet, that you've had the opportunity here at the booth?
That's a good question. A lot of people that I've looked in, or I guess like watched their presentations in the past, like Jan Sladeko. He presented a year ago at SIGGRAPH, I believe. So it was like cool meeting him last night, and Trevor Kerr. Just like a bunch of cool people. At the Media Motion Ball that was pretty cool last night. Ton of prizes. Unfortunately, I wasn't a winner. Close call, though. There was another Billy who got called. So, I don't know. Better luck next year.
Yeah, I agree. And we got to hang out with Jan last night, and that was a lot of fun, and I had never met him. Just in general, there's a lot of cool talent here. So, you've been in the industry for a little while, and you said that you've been to other events here in Las Vegas, but this is your first NAB, right? Is that correct? Or have you been to NAB before?
No, this is my first NAB. I've been to Vegas 5 times, all work-related at my previous job. So I know my way around Vegas a little bit, but NAB is big. I have been to the convention center here, and let me tell you, it is deceptively large. But don't let that scare you. If you're looking to come out to NAB next year, I would wholeheartedly recommend it. If you're listening to this close to when it goes up, that means you've got a whole year of leeway to start like meeting people online, Twitter, Slack, all the usual suspects, and like start growing those relationships now. And then that way it'll make coming to NAB even more rewarding, because that's been probably what I look forward to most coming out here, is like putting faces to names, just meeting all the friends and everyone that you're sending gifts to all day long. Why not just hang out and get to know each other a little bit better?
So, speaking of hanging out with all these awesome people, of course NAB is about learning, and since you're going freelance, you've been freelance now, is there anything that you're really excited to learn while you're here to help better your career and take that further as a freelancer?
Yeah, actually, in just a couple minutes, Chris Schmidt, the legendary, guy from GSG, is going to be doing his quick tips video. That's going to be absolutely jam-packed with awesome stuff, I'm sure. Pick up some cool workflow tips and, just kind of nerd out. I'm into the rendering thing, as obviously, being on Redshift Live with you. So that's cool to like see other engines and other stuff demoed, because like always, you shouldn't be married to a render engine, because at the end of the day, it's all just like kind of tools. And like what brand of paint a painter uses isn't relevant at the end of the day. It's like, what do they put on the canvas? So there's just like there's so much to take in. I've been at the Maxon booth here a lot, but hoping to break out a little bit more while we still have a little bit more time left.
Cool. So yeah, you're talking about it doesn't really matter the paint. So I gotta say, one of the things that I've loved about being at the booth is that U-Render's here, and if you guys don't know what that is, I think Brograph did an interview with them earlier, but that's just really cool to see, like, talking about Redshift and talking about different render engines, and then seeing yet another contender come out and possibly put more pressure on Redshift and Octane and help change things. So that's really cool that you're taking advantage of that too and checking out other stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it's a market full of different competing products, and that just means better tools, more available options for us artists. It's never something to turn down. Competition, more potential tools. I think you're maybe being a little bit silly if you are turning something down because of just like the name, or because of I don't know, some random opinion, or if X, Y, and Z artist is using ABC engine, then that's what you're going to use. Like, explore them all, try them all out. They all have pros and cons, and it's like a cool thing to get a behind the scenes look at like upcoming stuff. I know Otoy is here showing off the new Octane 4 stuff, which like just recently came out. I haven't had a chance to jump into it myself yet, but being able to see it live and like actually have representatives on site to like walk you through new features and stuff is really cool, because like one of the hardest things is when all this constantly ever-changing software has a new update, all the training partners, the Brographs, the GSGs, all that, it's like you have to update those materials, but you've got a representative on site here at events like NAB or SIGGRAPH or whatever to, get that information directly from the source. There's no better person to like, get that information from than the people who help make it and tour around with that. So
yeah, and I agree. And there's also like a unique atmosphere here, because not only are they here to talk to you about their products, but they'll hang out with you afterwards. Like tonight is the pinball party that is set up every year, and now we're going to get to hang out with all these people that have been sharing their knowledge with us in just like a personal setting that you don't really get anywhere else. And I'm sure you look forward to that too, right? Like just not being just tech support, but actually meeting people as humans.
Yeah, I mean they're people. It's that's the coolest thing about this is, you see somebody's avatar or their little Twitter icon, and there's a person behind that. Like obviously, it's easy to forget, but meeting people and actually having conversations one-on-one and just like becoming better friends that online stuff can only facilitate so much. As a freelancer, like sometimes it can be a little bit hard to come into contact with other humans. If you're really jamming on stuff and you're in your home office, that's like a really common thing that freelancers will bring up about being sometimes a pain point in their career. Luckily, I've got an awesome community back home in Michigan where I'm from, and shout outs to you guys. But this is just like all one massive party, and we're all friends here to take it in. So
Billy, you've been on Redshift Live, but for those of you who don't know where to find you, where can people look at your work and find you online, or if they even want to hire you as a freelancer?
Oh yeah, so you can find me on pretty much anything: Instagram, Tumblr, Twitter. My website is Gernge, spelled Grnge. If you search that on whatever social media, you'll find it there, or Gernge.com is my website with my portfolio and all that cool stuff. So thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, Billy. All right, we'll talk to you guys soon.
What's up, everybody? This is Dave from Brograph, continuing the Brograph iDesign mashup by introducing you to Octane Jesus himself, who is kind of a split Brograph iDesign dude because he's on our podcast all the time and he's on iDesign all the time, which is pretty sweet. David Ariev.
I just like to hang out with my buddies, and I don't have any major allegiances. I just hang out and Jesus out, and that's it. And we're exhausted. It's like I can't believe it's just day 2. It feels like day 50 something, and we're just friggin' out of it right now.
We had a really good podcast last night with a lot of people. That was a lot of fun. And let's rap a little bit. Let's not actually rap, but let's talk about Octane a little bit, because Octane 4 is coming out. Are you excited about that? Well, it's out, but not for Cinema 4D yet.
Yeah, I'm extremely excited. Like, the speed increases with the geometry. Like, it's like 60 frames per second. I did a little test, and my scene that had all those volumetrics went from like 1:30 to 7 seconds or something like that. So just that alone is worth the price of admission. And then when you add that to like the fact that they made it free, blows my mind. Like, free up to 2 GPUs. So whatever was subscription before, you're getting that for free. So that's insane. And then the subscription version for $20 a month, 20 GPUs and 2 render nodes. So like, that's already all the GPUs you could ever want in the whole world. And then the enterprise version, which I've got 3 of those, I guess now, which means I can have 200 GPUs per enterprise version. So I'm going to be packing 600 GPUs, bro.
It's never enough, though.
No, it's never enough. And then like the AI, so the AI denoiser, is amazing because it, like 50 to 100 samples, your renders will clean up for the most part. There's some scenes I've seen a little bit of, little splotchiness, but on the whole it's really good. So you just increase the samples a little bit more and it'll super clean up. And that's amazing, too, for even if it's not perfectly, like, say it doesn't even work perfectly, but rather than sending your clients, like, a super grainy fast pass, you can send them a really clean, fast pass, right? So even if it's not, like, the best thing since sliced bread, it's still going to be amazing for that really fast back and forth art direction until you get to your final and do the final render, and that may take a little bit longer. But yeah, so the AI denoiser is amazing, and then the AI light feature too is freaking incredible. So like, my understanding is that unbiased renderers have issues with really small point lights, right? Where, I don't know, Jay Roth like explained this to me way better. Some of this is a little over my head, but there's like, the smaller your light is, the more flickering there can be and just inconsistencies. So and also I've noticed like the closer to your light source, the more intense the noise gets, especially with that volumetric stuff. But so if you've got a lot of little point lights and a dark scene, then Octane sometimes has issues, but any unbiased renderer would have those issues. And so that's where Redshift is currently winning. But with this feature, they've got, that's called AI Light. It basically tracks your light sources. So yeah, those clean up much, much faster. So we're using AI, combining those 2 AI systems, where it's like understanding more and more the different light setups and understanding more and more the different types of scenes that they've got. So you pipe those 2 systems together and you've got really clean renders, super crazy fast, and we're approaching like real time. It's almost like game engine technology. It's like they're trying to merge in Brigade, which is pretty freaking insane. So all that together, and then there's like an AI geometry mode too, right? So there's 3 new AI modes. I don't totally remember. Can you speak on the
I don't know yet, because it's one of those things where I played with it a little bit, but I'm not too familiar with standalone, and I'm sure Ahmed is furiously working to get Cinema 4D out there.
Yeah. I mean, last time somebody said that it was like 6 weeks from standalone release to plugin release, and it's already been 2 or 3. So hopefully, maybe another 3 weeks we'll have it in our hands. I don't know.
Well, this is a new architecture, so maybe it's going to take a little bit longer.
Yeah, and then the other thing that I didn't mention is the out-of-core geometry, which was a major thing that, Redshift had above Octane, but now there are no limits on your scene size because all of that can get, it's an overflow pipe into the VRAM. So that's pretty freaking cool, too. I don't usually hit the scene scale limits, maybe when I'm, like, doing dead mouse and accidentally put, like, 30 million polygons in there or something.
Whoops.
Yeah, so in general, I don't hit those limits, especially with the 1080 Ti's, but sometimes with the volumetric stuff I do. So that's going to be super awesome to not have that cap on scene scale. It'll slow down a little bit, but not much. I think maybe like 20%, maybe a little more. Depends. We'll have to actually test it and see. And then, I forget what else I was going to say.
Well, let's talk about your tutorials, because you've done a lot of space, and I think this year it's like forests.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, yeah, I did those two. I've been doing like multi-part series because I get in on one. I'm like, oh, this is just going to be like a 30-minute tutorial. No big deal. And then I'm like, I realize that there's so much more depth. And I really like going deep on the tutorials. I don't like the shallow, like surface level stuff. It's an excuse for me to go in and research the crap out of something. You know, so like with the forest stuff, I'm like, what are all the best forest scenes? Like, let's watch everybody else's tutorials first. Let's experiment. Let's do this, do that. And then, you know, I even like contacted Joseph Bashara and the people, my heroes that I think are the best at this forest stuff. And I'm like, dude, you know, my grass is pretty clumpy and I'm not getting the results that I want, you know, and so he helped me with those settings a little bit. Or like Alex Ness, you know, I'm like, I've got the volumetric God rays that are looking okay, but then, and like also just digging through the Octane Facebook group, there's always little nuggets there that I hit save link on, you know, and like, I'm like, oh, right, you know, it's the one parameter, like the phase, that really helps the God rays. So I kind of collect that information. I like to digest all of that and, you know, re-vomit it out there for the community. But it always ends up being a lot more ambitious than I thought. So like for like an hour and a half long, two-parter, it takes me like a week to record, like research, record, maybe even a little bit longer sometimes. So it's like I like to do those really in-depth tutorials and not like constantly release them, but release them once a month or maybe like once every 2 months. And the amazing thing that happened is that Otoy is now officially like sponsoring me. So I'm, you know, now also my time is freed up because I'm actually getting paid to make these tutorials, which is amazing. Like I super appreciate this from Otoy. I'm now an official Otoy evangelist, so you can make your Jesus puns, what have you. But yeah, so that frees up my schedule because I've got client work, you know, and it's really hard to wedge these in. Like before, for the first, 10 or 12 tutorials, I was just doing it for exposure berries, you know, and just, you know, because it's fun to give back to the community. That's like how I learned was Video Copilot, Andrew Kramer, you know, then Grayscale Gorilla, then, you know, just like I absorb and learn through tutorials and experimentation, but I like to be lazy and just sit back and like let all that information wash over me, like develop a catalog of those things in my brain, and then go back to it later. When I've got a project, rather than trying to reinvent the wheel and start from scratch and tinker around, and you know that's too frustrating. I like to start from what are the best tutorials on this subject. Let's watch them all, and then let's build off of that. Let's bash several tutorials together, you know. And then like as I'm going, it's like, oh crap, I need jellyfish. Oh, let's watch Daniel Danielson's tutorial on jellyfish, you know. And then that comes together. And so
I still don't believe that that's a real name, Daniel Danielson. You know, the best way to learn is to teach. And that's what you're doing.
Yeah, that's super exciting for me. And like next, I think I'm gonna get into. So I've got a lot of plans. I want to do like a snow shader tutorial, like snowy mountains, and like showing how to combine scatter with displacement, how to cull tree lines so that they're not on the peaks of the mountains, and then mix several procedural noises in with that in the layer shader, which actually works with Octane, which I didn't know till recently. Stuff like that. And then I want to do like an underwater tutorial. I want to do like light tunnels, like what Frederic Duquette does, and kind of Beeple-ish, you know, like using black body emissions, but in clever ways to create really interesting VJ type content. And like Instagram is such a, you know, gold mine for this stuff. I'm like, I'll just do like tutorials that are like, and it teaches me too, because like I, you know, often don't force myself to do daily renders or like, you know, do that R&D, but I'm like, man, I really want to do something like Stuzor and figure out how that dude does his like scenes and makes these epic scales. So like if I research that and play around with it for a while and figure it out, then I can give that back to the community as a tutorial. And so it's like this, you know, wealth of content just by looking through Instagram. And so yeah, all that's really fun. But I was going to say, like, for a major series that I want to do that I'm planning is like more on that digital DP stuff, where I'm doing more lighting and more camera moves. And so I really want to make that into my first like really in-depth, like 8-hour series. So I'm pretty excited about that. And, you know, it forces me to really take the time to learn that stuff for myself. Like, I think I'm pretty good at camera movement and lighting, but I think I can get even further down that rabbit hole. And, you know, like, there's this old series by Hollywood Camera Work from, like, 2009. You know it. And it's, like, these weird previs figures, and they just kind of, like, float around and don't have any expressions, but that's, like, the point, because they look crappy, right? And because they don't have expressions, all of the emotion and storytelling and the editing, the camera cutting, like, what lens you're using, how the camera's moving. So the story is all told by that stuff rather than by the actors. So it's like taking the actors out of the equation and saying, here's a sick camera move where, like, if you've got a car coming down the road, and rather than just panning with it, you have the camera cross first, like right in front of it, and it almost looks like it hits the camera, and then you whip pan with it afterwards. So it's like little tricks like that, but just a ton of them, you know. So it's like that's a gold mine, and it's been discarded, you know. So I want to take all that, like, digest it and play around with that in prettier Octane scenes and use that and basically teach that same kind of content again, because, like, a lot of people are reaching for these, like, extremely, for me, difficult to learn technical things like Houdini and, you know, sims. Like, I don't love sims. Like, when I have to do an X-particle sim, like, a bunch of different times, you know, and, like, just change the look slightly and now it's, you know, and, like, tweak all these parameters, I get discouraged. I prefer to, like, you know, play around as a cinematographer and play with composition, lighting, texturing. Like, that's my jam. So if I'm that guy that makes the scene look pretty, then I'm happy. I don't need to be necessarily, like, dabbling super hardcore in the Houdini and all this other stuff when so many other people are getting into that. So, yeah, I think, like, learning cinematic language and just still studying that, I think I can, you know, that's where I'm, like, reaping the benefits and I feel like I'm seeing my work progress more, because we're storytellers. We're, you know, making films in our dinky computers, you know, and it's really weird, like that, and it's, like, vast too. So, like, I'd rather go down that rabbit hole is what I'm trying to say.
Awesome. Well, you're supposed to go interview Raid Zero now, but I think we're both really comfortable here in our Twinsies Render Things shirts. It's going to be really hard to get up. This is, like, the first time I've sat down all day. These shirts, Render Things, you can get these at Brograph.com, and you can find David at arievvisuals.com, right? And we're going to attempt to stand up, and we'll squanch you later.
What's up, everybody? Day 3, which in Vegas terms is like day 27, right. At the NAB booth, NAB 2018. I'm here with Sabor Amirazodi. Did I say that right?
You said it right.
All right, cool. I've been practicing. He just finished up his second presentation of the show, so you're finally done, right?
I can relax. This is nerve-wracking, but everyone here has been amazing about calming my nerves and making sure that I was going to give me some cool tips and telling me, like, how to keep everything calm. And yeah, it's been great. You guys have been great.
Is this your first time presenting?
Yes, this is my first time.
Excellent. You did so well. Like I told you earlier, it's like you have done tutorials your whole life, and or you were practicing for this moment your whole life, and here it finally came, and you took it by the whatever.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, it felt much better the second time. But again, it's because everyone's been giving me so many amazing tips and really calming me down. I did notice that we're presenting to people that are all on our side. So even if I screw up and throw up all over my face, they're all going to be like, oh, that sucks. I feel for you. You know what I mean? It's like we really are surrounded by people that are on our side. It's
you don't want to puke on stage, though, because you'll always be known as the guy who puked at NAB.
I almost feel like that needs to be a goal now. Next year, I'm going to puke on that podium.
See, but then you're leaving a legacy behind, you know.
Huh? See? You see my method. Right. Method of the madness.
I see where you are.
Uh-huh.
That's more work. Right? Bring in more work. Dude, I'm the guy who puked at NAB.
I'm the guy who pukes.
All right. Now, on to Mograph. So I love your presentation. Like, the stuff you're creating is super clean. Like, very, very clean. Like, especially, I love the time machine thing. I thought the concept behind the time machine thing was really cool. Was it your idea to bring in the Pioneer DJ thing, or was that theirs?
So all the guideline was to create a time travel experience that took us back into different milestones of the history of that product. And originally the idea was going through different cities. So going to 1996, which was the first CDJ model, and then jumping to the future, and then jumping to the present, and then somehow glitching, and then going all the way back to prehistoric time. So the idea was just that. And then for me, I thought two things. One, I'm trying to save from rendering an entire front view. because I'm trying to get this project done.
And it's across, for those who didn't see the presentation, it's across, 11 screens all around you inside this store. It's incredible.
And it was nerve-wracking because we're trying to figure out a way to get this all rendered out. I say we. I'm trying to figure out a way to get this rendered out in a reasonable amount of time so I can go home to my family. So I came up with the idea of using their CDJ, the brand new CDJ model, which is like a turntable thing. And they provided me with a 3D model. I pitched the idea. I said, hey, it might be kind of cool if we do this. And the cool thing about Pioneer is those guys, basically the first year I did this, they're like, okay, he's not an idiot. Maybe we can give him some freedom. So they gave me some freedom the second year, and they kind of trusted a lot of the judgments I made. And one of them was, I think it'd be cool to have this time machine, very dark brown, very Back to the Future-esque. So I just added a bunch of stuff on it and made that the central point, and also the driving factor that showed people that we're going back in the time, because it's not always necessarily noticeable that the context is we're going back in the time. There's so many different visual elements that we added in there, where the billboards all changed. There's a car that sat there that was a 1996 Mustang that turned into a BMW M4 brand new, then turned into a floating hovercraft, and then back in the time it just was a rock with wheels on it. But it was
hilarious.
But it's all these little aspects, and like the billboard in the back was a billboard that showed every single one of the models, and then in the future it was like a hovering holographic billboard, and then in the past it was literally a rock with a bigger boulder on top of it, and it looked like it was the exact same shape. So it was a lot of those elements that people aren't necessarily ever probably going to notice, but that's why I think it was important to have one central piece that we can always reference to for context that said that the year.
I mean, it's cool because, you're building these 11 different screens. So, if you're just building the main one as the main thing and the driving factor, adding those little elements helps them reference kind of what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's fun. It's fun because we're all used to making some really cool stuff, and unfortunately, it's the same medium. And then even more unfortunate is when you create and spend so much time fixating on every single pixel, and then you show your friends or your wife or your mom or your dad or your best buddy, and he views it. He's like, "Oh my God, I totally saw it. It's pretty cool. I watched it on my iPhone." I'm like, "Oh, you watched it on the iPhone." But seeing it in a huge environment, seeing it in a massive space. That's just really cool to me, and that really got me excited because now I can kind of invite my friends over and say, hey, you guys could go check out that booth or check out that concert or go check out something, and you'll be able to see the work in a much larger scale. I think that's rad.
Yeah, and I love that you brought in a 360 camera. You took 360 video of the whole thing. That was cool. That was an interesting way to show it off, because across 11 screens, that's very difficult. It was a good way to do it within your presentation.
Thank you. It was actually kind of fun because it's hey, and we get to play with 360 toys. Yeah. So it's just an excuse to have to buy a 360 camera so we can shoot it.
Yeah. So I got to say, watching the presentation and stuff, and this may be across the board with most motion designers and stuff like that, but you made this beautiful work, and you made it look really easy to do. I watched the pirate ship stuff, and I'm thinking, okay, he's got to do some sort of Houdini sim, along with some whitewater stuff, and then whatever. But no, it's just simple hot 4D, pirate ship on a vibrate tag.
And to everyone else's credit, I only made it look. Thank you for saying it. I made it look easy because I feel like that's a compliment. But to everyone else's credit, I feel like it looked easy only because you guys, Grayscale Gorilla, all these talented people around us have put in the hours and put in the experimentation and put in the time to play with cinema and really teach someone like me how to take those shortcuts and how to get to that result. By teaching and by experimenting, the Chris's, the Nicks, the guys that are literally in the trenches and playing with the tools. That's so valuable to this community that I think it's always going to be understated, and for that I'm greatly thankful for all these guys. I'm just the guy who's using all the tools.
Me too.
Yeah, right? High fives.
All right, where can people find you online?
Honestly, I have a company called 7th Stream Media. So I have a website. It's a terrible one because I just literally started making it right before NAB. That's one thing I suck at is marketing myself, but somehow I still keep getting work. But I gotta work on that marketing part, you know. So
I'll share some pointers with you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But yeah, my email sabor7@me.com. That's a good one to start. And then I'll come up with another one afterwards. Yeah.
All right, man. Thanks for taking the time. Appreciate it. More from the NAB 2018 floor at the Maxon booth. We'll see you guys soon. What's up, everybody? We are here at NAB 2018 on the Maxon showroom floor. We are here with John Bosley. He at the Insidium booth, right?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. John, you've been showing off a lot of the work with X Particles, Insidium, of course, the creator of X Particles and Cycles 4D.
Yep.
And X Particles 4 just recently came out within the past...
last year.
Okay. Yeah. So give me kind of like a update for those who are still on 3.5. What kind of the updates to X Particles 4 were?
So there are probably too many to say in one interview, but the big ones are kind of effects-based. So we've got like something called Exposure Effects, which does smoke and fire simulations. We've got better liquid solvers. There's open VDB meshing, which is super fast, super smooth, very stable. There's in the next release that's coming out, which is still going to be 4, but it's like a next iterative release. It's faster, lots of speed improvements, passing color around. Yeah, there's so much that it was quite intimidating when I was when I first opened it, but it's awesome.
Talk to me a little bit about the integration between X Particles and Cycles 4D, because anytime someone asks me, we're talking render engines and stuff, one of my main questions is, are you using X Particles in your workflow all the time? Because anytime they are, I always say Cycles 4D has such a good incorporation of that.
So because these guys make X Particles and they ported Cycles, they literally, you can pass all the color information from the particles, which most engines can do. It's just the way you do it. It can do it live. It can pass the smoke information from the exposure effects container, and it also can access other, third-party fluid sim stuff, but it's just the integration to X Particles is insane. You can just grab attributes, different color, radius, scale, and drive color by those parameters after you've simulated. So you could have a cached sim and change everything about it. You could change the scale of the particles, the color, which is really hard to do in other packages. So yeah, that's the advantage of Cycles, definitely. Just the integration.
Let's see. I had another question about... weren't there some really big updates to some of the cloth in 4? So that was like a huge introduction.
Yeah, exactly. I can't list them all. There's so many. Yeah. So the cloth was totally new in 4. I mean, you could make it using something called the constraints object, but that was in 3.5. But you couldn't do tearing. You couldn't edit it like a cloth. It's very intuitive now. You literally drop a plane in and you press the create cloth button. Literally, it's that. Yeah. And then you can collide it with stuff. And because it's particles, it works with all the particle modifiers. So you can spin it around, have turbulence on it, and attract it, do all sorts of crazy stuff. And it's really stable as well. Yeah.
I was going to say, I love Maxon. I love Cinema 4D. They bring us out here. We do this stuff and we help them out. But I got to say, the cloth stuff in X Particles looks so clean in comparison just to the basic cloth in Cinema 4D.
One of the main things is that the fact that it's particle-to-particle collisions, it means that the self-collisions of the cloth really hold true. And if you up the subframe steps enough, you'll see no intersections in the cloth. And you can just drop cloth on cloth. Which is hard to do in most engines, and it won't intersect, and it's super stable. I love it. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So let me ask you about this. You just released a course on Grayscale Gorilla, doing basically all X Particles training.
Yeah. It was the Gorilla Guide to X Particles. It was like the fundamentals, and just going a bit beyond the fundamentals, and trying to cover everything in XP is really difficult.
I can imagine, yeah.
And that was in 3.5. And then 4 released, so we're going to do an update to that, which is coming out pretty soon. And that's going to cover all the dynamic stuff, all the liquid sims, all the smoke sims, all that kind of stuff. Cloth, like you said. That's like a lot.
And that's with version 4? That's 4 version?
That's with version 4. So it's literally the version 4 update for GSG. Guerrilla Guide.
Fantastic. So I'm a fairly new X Particles user. We've had it. It's one of those. I don't know. Me personally, I love buying plugins. Me too. I don't use them all the time. Yeah. But we've had X Particles for a while, and it wasn't until recently that I really wanted to push myself to learn it, because I was kind of on this, and maybe you've encountered this with a few people today. They're like, well, should I move to Houdini? Should I just really learn X Particles?
Well, yeah, I mean, this is kind of dragging people. It's kind of like, tearing people back in towards staying in C4D. That's the big advantage, right? Yeah. Is that you can do a lot of stuff that you can. I mean, Houdini is...
It's killer, yeah.
Right? But having this inside C4D, not having to jump out to another app, it's really attractive, right? So you can and there's some things in here something called the flow field, where you're like dealing with velocity vectors, and that's a very Houdini-esque idea, being able to kind of drive velocity vectors using polygons, splines, all that kind of stuff. So you can build your own modifiers from scratch. So yeah, it's kind of elevating it to sort of an advanced, like VFX, aspiring to be a VFX workflow.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people say, who are in Houdini and like just use Cinema 4D, that they're like, wow, with all of the advancements that's going on with X Particles, you almost like it's giving Houdini a fight for its money.
Yeah, and I love them both, by the way. So
I mean, I do too.
I like all the toys, but I'll be honest. I actually used to jump out to Houdini all the time to do my meshing, like literally all the time, because of VDB, open VDB meshing. And now they put it in X Particles. I've found myself staying in there because it's just as fast, smoothing operations. Yeah,
and it's nice to work, in one system.
Yeah. Don't have to boot up another one. Right. Yeah.
So as a beginning user, I do have to compliment Insidium, because the online videos that you guys have, I think are some of the... when you buy a software or buy a plugin, there's not a lot of documentation, or you get just the paper. Right. And, we're artists. We don't like to... That's why there's so much tutorials out there, because none of us wants to read a manual. Yeah. So I just have to compliment Insidium on their amazing video library of it.
I'm with you. That helped me learn it from the very start, because, Mike from Insidium recorded them all. So it's in every object in X Particles, you have a question mark icon and a video icon, and one takes you to the video tutorial and one takes you to the manual, and it's just like, that's such nice integration. Like, I'm stuck on a feature here, I need to work out what this parameter does. You can jump to the manual if you're that guy, or you can jump to the video. Everyone jumps to the video, right? Yeah. So yeah.
So where would you recommend for someone to start who has never used X Particles before?
Definitely those. Insidium put out really good beginner sort of starters things, and also just for me personally, when I get a piece of software, I like to just bump up against the walls a bit, just throw stuff together and see what happens. But there are plenty of good intro, free tutorials online and that kind of stuff. Obviously, my GSG guide, but plug, and that's a good intro. But yeah, if you're going to just start, the cool thing is it's very Cinema 4D centric. So the paradigm of having a cloner and then modifying that cloner with an effector, like changing those clones, it's exactly the same principle. Having an emitter and then having a modifier modify those particles. So it very much feels the same as it should. Feels like it's right in C4D essentially, instead of Thinking Particles, which was a bit more nodal, and you sort of have to plug stuff in and guess a little bit. But okay.
Awesome. So where can people find it if they want to purchase either X Particles or Cycles 4D?
That's Insidium.com, I believe. Insidium.com, or just xparticles.com, and you'll get there. Yeah, and you'll get both Cycles and X Particles info there.
John, where can people find you online?
Just Twitter at Brasco UK, all one word. And yeah, that's from there. You'll see all my other links as well for Vimeo and stuff like that. So
awesome! Thank you for taking this time.
No worries.
From the showroom floor, NAB 2018 Day 3. We will be right back with more videos. Stick around.
David Ariev here for Brograph.com and iDesign.com, coming to you with yet another wonderful interview for the NAB on the NAB show floor. I'm a little bit out of it right now, a little bit hungover, but I'm here with my buddy Jan. I love this guy. I look up to him. He's one of the best artists I know of in the entire motion design industry. So Jan Sladecko, or more correctly, Sladecko, right? I got it. Yeah, man. So you're from the Czech Republic. Talk about how many years have you been doing motion design? What was it like doing that in the Czech Republic? I guess you did like VFX and motion design at first, and like all these like small team projects. What was your life like for, in getting into After Effects and all this stuff back in the Czech Republic?
Yeah, it's correct. In Sladečko, I'm really nice surprise. Yeah, I'm saying Sladečko here because it's easier for the people.
Right.
I started 2010. I started working for movies in After Effects. It was really rare. Everybody was doing Nuke, and it was like small department in After Effects. But then we basically started using more After Effects and started Cinema 4D, and I was doing the user interface and graphics for movies. And I was just like a little bit more, and they gave me more freedom. And I realized I really loving it. So then I left the movie industry, and I started working more for commercials and TVs. And I started doing like a full motion design things. Mm-hmm. But it was hard. I was doing for small brands, and I was doing music videos, and I was like testing, and I was like seeing where it will go.
Yeah.
But eventually I decided I have to move and see what's going to happen in abroad, and I moved to London, and but it was like small steps in the beginning.
Okay, but before you moved, you had this hilarious YouTube channel. Sledgy, is that what it is? So tell us about the Zombie Cat true story. This is okay. So his roots, he has the most ridiculous like YouTube video you've ever seen. It's like right along the lines with the dudes we were talking to yesterday, Corridor Digital and Freddie Wong. And do you remember when like Jean-Claude Van Damme, they released that green screen footage where you could key him out and use him in his? So like Freddie Wong did a video like that, but this guy took it to the next level and had like a whole war film where they were fighting zombie cats and then other zombies and the aliens, and it was just the most funny thing you've ever seen. So check out Zombie Cat True Story. Like I love this. So like I love that you've got this comedic element to your work, and I love seeing it come back into your personal work. But yeah, tell us about that project and like the whole like people getting pissed at you in the comments for like because it says true story. They're like, this is so fake.
No, yeah, it's true. This is kind of a funny part. I mean, when I was starting, I was using After Effects all the time, and I wanted to experiment, and I was always so excited. Oh, I could maybe compose this explosion here, or this like energy here, and this and there. And I was like learning Video Copilot, as many of us did. And I was like really just taking the videos, and I was like mixing up different ideas, and I was like having a really good time just experimenting. And then I realized it's my passion, the motion design and the graphic. And I was doing a school project where I was like the main actor, I was like the Rambo, and I was like trying to save the world against the aliens, which were converting all the people to zombies. It was a ridiculous story. I just wanted to make people laugh, but at the same time I wanted to do something which I enjoy, which was action movies. Yeah, exactly. So it was a cool, interesting blend for me. And then came up this show with Jean-Claude Van Damme, the challenge. Yeah. So I got these footages, so I blended together, and I made like this kind of crazy short movie. Yeah. And back then it got banned from the YouTube, so it was like really like many years in the shelf in my computer hard drive, and then I uploaded recently.
It's got like 1 million
and
views.
It's got almost like 1 million views. So it's kind of skyrocketed, and I met a guy from Corridor Digital, and I was just like, wow, so this could be my alternative presence or the future if I would stay doing that, because I kind of failed back then, so I left my hobby and I started doing more like commercial work, industry. I'm not regretting because I learned so much. I was working in such a big companies around the world. It was a really interesting time for me. But at the same time, somewhere in my back head, as you said, I was like kind of like missing this comic element. Yeah. So that's what I'm trying to now introduce in my new videos, and hopefully it's gonna kind of land on a proper place and people like it and I will enjoy to making it. Yeah. So that's my kind of plans for close future.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. I think when you did your SIGGRAPH presentation, that's when I really like noticed your work like so much, like with the Transformers thing you posted on the Octane Facebook group. That blew me away, like the complexity of the transition going into the tunnel, like all of the moving parts. It looks so complex, and like it fits perfectly into the Transformers world. And then like taking Video Copilot assets, those like Star Wars type tunnels, and kit bashing them and then adding all the little lights, it just brought it to the next level. So I thought that was super cool. And then also like the Americans title sequence, like I learned a bunch. Like that SIGGRAPH presentation was awesome. I learned so much from it, like the X and Y X particles limits to create that like cross weaved look and stuff like that. Yeah, man, that was super cool.
Yeah, I mean, thank you a lot. I mean, it was the most interesting project from last year at the Mel, which I was working on, and I always wanted to do this kind of like techie stuff, that dark thing. Right. So when I got the offer of work on this project, I'm just like, that's why I traveled thousands of miles. That's why I left my family and my friends, and why I got to the States. I mean, give me the opportunity, and I want to take this. So I was working like extra hard, and I really wanted to do something which I care and which I enjoy. So I was adding more elements or more details than they asked me, just because I wanted to do something which I will be proud of. Right. And we had a really tight schedule. It was like 16 days or something like that. But yeah, it was an interesting project. It was the first time I was doing the kit bashing because I didn't have much time. So I had to use the shortcuts, which was the kit bashing perfect. So I was using the Motion Design 2 pack, I believe. And Americans, we had like slightly bigger team, but it was also really interesting. We were like combining different like approaches and tools. And yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I mean, those things, those opportunities are because I choose my commercial work, and I learned so much about this. And now I would like to find some transitions and using all the skills and abilities which I learned during the past, I don't know, 8 years or how many is it. And I would like to combining in those kind of short animations.
Yeah, well, yeah, it seems like you're doing that with your latest 3 Instagram projects. I like that you're not just blasting work out there constantly, or just like stills. You're actually taking the time to make a fully fleshed out story, even if it's just a short story. So it started with, to me, it looks like it started with the octopus one. So yeah, that was super cool because the detail and the animation of that like tentacle coming out, and then just, and the cloth. Also, yeah, I was curious about the cloth, whether that was Marvelous Designer. So that looked really, really cool, and just like the little comedic like story of the octopus like reaching out, grabbing the the little cloth, and then bringing it back into its hole, and like just the pause before it goes in, like you could easily just have it go back in, but like the little pause, it like feels like it belongs in a Pixar film. It's like from Finding Nemo almost. It looks like that level of quality to me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really glad that you noticed. I mean, this was interesting transition for me because I wanted to do something. First of all, I used to do mainly dark stuff. More of my stuff were kind of like dark and vignette and like dynamic, and I was becoming the branded as that type of the guy. Even IMAX fits really well to this world.
Like the rugby stuff or what?
Yeah, the rugby stuff, my robot, Lucol commercial of the engine. Right. So I did a lot of this kind of like dark dynamic things, and I thought I kind of want to try explore with the colors and with more bright things. Yeah. And the humor. So this was kind of the transition there. It was a starting dark, in the darkness, and it was a scary. Right. So it was a reference to my old type of work. And then it turned a light and it plays a ridiculous music. So this video actually, it was a kind of my own signal that I'm trying to do transition or experimenting with something else. And I did a few more videos when I was playing with the light. I was like, this is one which I didn't release yet, which was like interesting. I hope I will still finish it. So I start playing more with the bright things, and even the run, the obstacles one is dark and moody, and then on the end he run to the like bright world. Yeah. So this is another, again, the small message which people.
The one that's on the Maxon reel where the guy is running through the cloth. Is that what you're talking about, or?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So this is kind of like small messages that I'm trying to experiment with the bright things and bright environments. And the latest one, the astronaut, it was like already full bright on. Right. But coming back to Octopus, it was interesting, it was challenging for me how to rig the tentacle. Yeah, I didn't know when I started working on it how complicated it is to rig the tentacle. If you look on the videos, how it's moving, how it's like reaching the things, it's really complicated movement. So I had a hard time, so I tried so many different approaches to came up with some like function thing. And I was checking from Finding the Nemo, the rig of the octopus. It is ridiculous. This was in Maya. It's so ridiculous setup.
Yeah, they had to make it 7 tentacles rather than 8. They had to cut one off specifically because it was too difficult for them to do 8. Even just doing 1 is so freaking hard.
No, it was really complicated, and I wanted to try cloth. I wanted to see what I can get out of Cinema 4D. So it's a Cinema 4D.
It's a C4D cloth?
Yeah. There's some small jittering, but yeah, it's a C4D. It's a Turbulence FD for smoke. Yeah. It's an Arnold smoke for some parts. Octane for I'm using Arnold for for smoke, for simulations, because I'm getting the better results, and then the Octane for like the rest of the scene. So that sometimes I'm mixing both renders, depends what I want. And yeah, I mean, this was kind of like my first attempt to do something funny, but also didn't land it so well as I wanted. But this happens. I mean, it's about the persistence. And as you mentioned, there's a lot of people out there who's like shooting one video after another video on Instagram or style frames, pictures.
Right.
I kind of want to take a time and develop a little bit the idea in my head and like do something more meaningful for me or in my eyes. But on the other hand, Instagram is designed for frequency, so it has cons and pros. But
I think that you can get to the same level though. Some artists like Hoodass, like we were looking at, he doesn't post that much, but it's the quality. If you present this quality, and that was your first video you released like that just for Instagram, which by the way, I'm amazed that you've got time, working at the mill of all places, that you're putting aside your friends and your personal life to experiment on top of the work you're doing at one of the top studios in the world. So like that blows my mind. I don't know how how you can make time for that, but yeah, like I was saying, it's just, that's super cool, man.
Yeah, thank you very much. I mean, it is, if you work full time, it's not really easy to find the time for personal projects. So you need to kind of be really willing, and you need to have the inner passion or drive to really do it. That you are enjoying it. Because I'm not doing it for money now because it's not paid. I'm just doing it kind of because I want to do something to fulfill myself and do something which I'm having fun and ideally entertaining people as well. Yeah. So that's what I'm like trying to figure it out. But sorry, what was the first?
Oh no, it's okay. It's cool that you're utilizing the mill's resources to like do this stuff, and then that's where I wanted to get into like the second of your 3 personal projects that I've seen. The Houdini sim is like it looks like it belongs in a feature film. Like it's really cool that you collaborated with that guy at the mill. I'm not sure what his name is, but yeah, talk a little bit about that project as well.
Yeah, it's a Jae-jun. It's really interesting collaboration. I mean, he's a Houdini artist. He's a really good Houdini artist. And at the mail, I sent the email just, hey guys, I'm working on a personal project. It's inspired by atomic bomb explosions and tests from 50s. Yeah. I want to do this and this. I show them animatic. And it's kind of interesting. We want to do some explosion of the house for another project. We will give you one artist to help you develop this look. Cool. So he was like basically paid by the mail.
Oh, no way. That's awesome.
He was paid by the mail to working on this demolition test, which they could use for mill project. But at the same time was working on the assets for my project. Right. So it was like win-win situation.
That's awesome.
And we started like doing more collaboration, and he started explaining me Houdini and showing me how it works, and I started a little bit understanding more about this complicated, sophisticated, but amazing software. Yeah. And right now, yes, we are doing like some more collaborations, and but at the same time, it is long path. I mean, if you are doing it for free in your personal project, and you want to do like each shot in the project that I was preparing was like heavy effects, like smokes, explosions, like it was so many.
The way the roof tears off is just crazy and looks so realistic.
I mean, I'm really happy about the results. I mean, I'm flying above the model and I'm still finding new angles. Yeah. And I'm just like, wow, that's so good. It's so good. I could just make a couple of 5 small projects just based on the simulation, and they will be different. Yeah. I can play with the lighting. I have all the smokes. Yeah. It's VDB, so I can lit it differently. It can be day and night. Exactly, I can have fire inside. Mm-hmm. And I mean, he did such an amazing job. I mean, I downloaded a lot of references for him, and then I was giving some creative feedback. But he did like amazing demolition job on it. Totally. And but at the same time, we realized how much work it is. Yeah. I mean, this was the first small shot. I mean, it was a key shot from the short movie, but it was so hard that we burned a lot of energy on it. Yeah. And I have to say, sadly, that now we kind of stopped working on this project because when I try to be realistic, sometimes artists, they are like, yeah, we're going to do it. It's going to be cool. Yeah, it's going to be nice. And you don't think too much about the schedule. Exactly. So I was like this before. And then I was like, oh, it takes a long time. So now I really put the Excel sheet or Google document sheet, and I number the shots. I put a list what I have to do and how long it's gonna take. Yeah. And I realized it's gonna take me, if I'm gonna be working now full time, it's gonna take me like 8 months, maybe even more to finish it. I mean, even 3 months, if I would be working on nothing else, it would take me at least 3 months, which right now for a project that's just for free, it's really demanding and time consuming, and I would need the help of some Houdini artists anyway. So I kind of put this project now on standby, and I hope I will finish it one day. I don't know. We'll see what's going to happen.
I hope so too, man. Sorry, Matt, your back, I'm sure, is killing you. But I have like one more question for him.
Sorry, Matt.
No, it's okay. I do the long interviews, and it always pisses him off. And he's like, "Oh, my back." Okay. But yeah, I mean, so that's amazing, and yeah, it's really good of you to like create that schedule, and that is, more kind to the artists that you're working with in their time, and also good for yourself. Like, oh, let's be realistic about this. How much is it going to take? So that's awesome. And the other thing that you said that really sparked something in my head was just like, yeah, when you finally build out an amazing environment like that, or that sim, it's so tempting to go in and like make 5 different projects out of it, like reuse it, like all, build some kind of digital environment. I'm like, oh hell yeah, now I can fly cameras through it and do all these different things. That's one of the most fun things about CG is like, once the build is done, then you're a photographer and you can, shoot it and light it however you want. But then, yeah, so the latest personal project, this is the one that's blown up the most. And I think in great part because of the comedic element, like the idea that this Tesla or car is floating out in space thanks to Elon Musk, and these astronauts are trying to catch it. It's like the grand prize, and so it's this guy that like kind of bounces off. It's like Mars environment. This guy in an astronaut suit bounces off the car, and it feels like gravity. It like reminds me like 1-to-1 of Sandra Bullock like scrabbling to get to the portal or whatever it is, not die, but he's trying to get the car, and like the animation is so convincing that it looks like mocap to me. I'm like, is this mocap? No, wait a second, it couldn't be, because there's no mocap that exists of someone floating in space. So you hand animated that, and that's what blows me away more than anything about this project. That, and then the reveal when you pan to see all the other astronauts that are making fun of this dude because they've all failed too, and he's like, no, I got this one.
Yeah, I mean, this is like my latest project, which kind of got bigger attention, and I was so happy and excited working on this project. Actually, it's after the house explosion, which was so much time consuming to do. Yeah. I wanted to do something personal, but something which is going to be faster. And I knew I already have a rigged car, and I had like nice landscapes and environment. So I thought, okay, let's put something together which could be like make it faster, but it's going to be more exciting for me or more enjoyable for me to work on. And hopefully I will entertain people. I thought, let's do something bright, colorful, and try to give them some message. And like some small more like ideas which were in my head, which were forming. And then when I was building the flying car, and everybody, oh, this looks like Elon Musk. Because the original idea with flying car was slightly different. And then it actually makes totally sense. And let's make a fun of it. And let's this happy astronaut by Elon Musk, which is like flying into space. Let's try to make the other astronauts kind of jealous and try to get this car. And it's funny you are mentioning the gravity, because it was kind of reference in my head when I was building on it. And I told my sound designer, which was White Noise Lab, Roger Lima, he did so great job. I mean, the audio is so good. So many people said that the video is made by the audio, and I agree, audio is so great, and he did such a great job. And I was telling him, I want to do struggle. I want to show the struggle by the audio supported, like the gravity. When you don't even want to hear the music. I don't want to hear the music in this spot. Right. I just want to hear the voices, the breath, and I just want to like focus more on this struggle to give more emotions to that one person than overkill it with the music. Right. I seen someone recently, they reposted on his Instagram, and they put some like electronic EDM music or whatever. Okay, and it's just like wow. And they did the color grading on it, like some kind of like American color grading. Just like wow. I mean, they just like took it and they like totally like changed it.
That's not cool.
Yeah, that's not cool. Yeah, I need to figure out what I'm gonna do with this in the future. But definitely, I was enjoying this project because I tried to build a line. In the beginning, I wanted to do some abstract scene, flying car in the desert. So it's like basically 3 chapters of this short story. Cool. And then you introduce saying the problem. There's like some guy flying and trying to get the car. You don't know why he's trying to get the car, what's going on, but you see there's something start going on, and you quickly understand that he's trying to get into the car, which also helped the audio when he said, I got it. Right. So he's trying to get there, but I wanted to make it, if he would got to the car, he'd be like, yeah, okay, he made it. I just like, no, I want to fail this guy. I want to fail this guy. And he's like flying away. Then I got the idea. It was initially there with the other astronauts. But I remember, I don't know if you've seen the movie Stardust. There was like dead princes, I think. And there was like some main story. And they were kind of like hanging in the air, and they were commenting what's going on. And they were kind of like laughing to it. And I thought, this has like double meaning. There's like a bunch of the astronauts dudes which already missed the car. They did made it, and they like flying into space like pointlessly. Right. And then on the same time, they are kind of a spectators of this event, so they can somehow react. Right. And Roger came with this laughing sound to them, and that's it. That's it. That's totally like make it happen. And I was like so happy how it went together, and it was like a really nice collaboration with him. And I had a really good time, and because of this, and because of nice warm feedback from the people, I stopped working on another episodes. We'll see what's gonna go, because sometimes you need a lot of things which can have to click to make something which people will enjoy. So you can't really predict well what's gonna make people laugh. It can be hard, but I hope I will be able to kind of like use my sense of humor, which I was trying to use in previous videos as well, and I will do short, funny series about the struggle in the space. So stay tuned on my Instagram.
Yeah, I'm super excited to see that, man. Thanks so much for talking to us. Yeah, it's great to talk to you, and I love hanging out here. You know, it's been great. You know, you've been like more part of the community this time, I think. And yeah, it's great. And I'll see you, at SIGGRAPH and all the next events and stuff, man. All right, Matt's so tired. Thanks, guys. Signing off.
All right, hey everybody, we are here again live on the floor of NAB 2018 at the Maxon booth here, as you can tell by our lovely background. And right now I'm joined by one of the people that have, like, if it wasn't for them, I probably would know a fraction of what I know about Cinema 4D today. Chris Schmidt from GrayscaleGorilla.com. How you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for hanging out.
Of course, thanks for coming by and getting interviewed here. How's it been going so far? How's your presentations been?
Well, NAB, I think this is my favorite NAB so far. Every night's been unique and different with different parties, different styles, and it's been really fun. And then the presentation, I got to do two of them. One where it was just another 50 minutes of tips and tricks and techniques, which are always my favorite. And I think they're my favorite because it's everybody else's favorite. Yes. Like, they tell me that those are the ones I like for me, so I like doing that. Yeah. And then me and Nick just today got to do an Ask GSG, and those are always a little worrying because you're asking questions live in the audience without us pre-planning, and you never know what's going to happen. So those worked out really well. I think that was my favorite one of the live Ask GSGs.
Awesome. So you guys are keeping busy over at GSG, right? Where you guys came out with Gorilla Cam, right? Yes. So for those that might not know much about it, why don't you go and talk a little about Gorilla Cam there?
Sure. Do I hold that or you keep holding it? Cool. Yeah. So, yeah, Gorilla Cam. It was actually Chad's brainstart. It was actually Chad's brainchild. It was actually Chad's brainchild that he just had this idea for a little plugin that we could sneak in between one big project we were working on and another big project we were working on. It's just like the idea of trying to simplify the camera a little bit. But the main thing, the concept behind it is making something non-destructive that adds more of a human touch to the camera. Everything in CG is always very perfect, and most of our job, anybody working in motion design, we're trying to make it look a little less perfect, a little less precise. So it's just the idea of taking a camera, very simple, a static camera or a basic moving camera, smoothing it out a little bit, or overshooting it a little bit. And the main thing is that we've got all these frequencies of noise to like have big slow shakes, or tiny medium kind of human scale, and tiny little vibration ones like you're on a train or a plane, or and just layering those up and iterating. And while you can go really deep and change all the sliders and move stuff around all over the place, we got all these presets where you can click on, I forget, we got like 40 different presets that we just think are kind of cool. Right. But then we also have a I'm feeling lucky button, which is like coming up with like algorithmic, like that we think these are going to work well. So I'm actually changing seeds and making all these things. So you can just keep on clicking through until it seems to look good for you, and you just have a human touch to your camera, non-destructively.
That's awesome. Awesome. So, you and Chad have been, so you and Chad, I think it's really cool what you guys just put out your latest tutorial where you kind of tag team on something like that. So you want to talk a little bit about that? Is that something you guys are going to keep continuing doing, like tag team tutorials, kind of stuff like that?
Yes, that's actually a really big thing where we've been kind of struggling a little bit with the tutorials where we're trying to figure out like the scale of them and the length of them and how we want to do it.
Yeah.
Back in the day, me and Nick had actually counted. We did 5 different combo tutorials where I did something and he took over. And they're always everybody's favorite. Like they really like people's different skill sets being able to go in.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not very good at making the pretty render at the end of the day, but I'm really good at being technical. So so me and Chad brainstormed for a little bit, came up with something cool. Ended up not working. So we came up with a different idea, and then that one came together super quickly, and it was really fun to go and make a very technical thing that I think is it's a very specific artsy type of thing. But I tried to make it more or conceptually that people have a lot of different things they could do with it. And then Chad took it and just went completely nuts with it, and he went and made like a photorealistic art gallery where it's hanging on the wall, and there's a crowd of people, and like a lighting rig, did all this crazy stuff, went way overboard in the best way possible.
In it, moving around.
And I was like, dude, so like mine was like an hour long. Here's a little behind the scenes. Mine was an hour long, and his was supposed to be an hour long. And he recorded it, and he went way overboard in a good way. And he recorded 4 hours of content, and we're like, "This is too much." And we wanted to do a longer one, but this is too much for a tutorial. So instead, he went and he redid it as a breakdown of the scene, like going into all the detail, all the information you could need, but without doing a step by step by step. So it's also, in addition to kind of bringing back the 2-parter tutorials and me and Chad's first 2-parter tutorial, it's also a little bit of an experiment to see how people feel about a breakdown type of thing, where I like going step by step, but breakdown can be fun too with a project that's just a little, NAB, or it's just too big, you can't do every single step. And honestly, after like how many edge loops can you select and tweak and select and tweak until you're like, this is not fun to watch anymore.
Like your ducky tweaking that
yes,
you're making over there.
Yeah.
For those of you that don't know about the ducks, it's something you need to come to NAB. It's a little inside.
Oh, don't give away the ducks. There's only so many ducks to have.
See, you don't.
Yeah.
You only know if you're here. So
yes.
Make sure that you come to one of these because you get in on this kind of stuff. But so is there anything like I'm just trying to think of? Is there one type of tutorial that is highly in demand that you have not made yet that you're like we should probably like do this kind of tag team thing like you, Chad, and Chris like all kind of go in on that? Or is it just all over the board?
I mean, there's always stuff all over the board. I mean, literally every aspect of cinema. Like, the more tutorials there are, the more detailed the tutorial is, like, the happier everybody is. So everybody loves and wants UV tutorials because that's kind of a pain. It takes long. Modeling, rigging, character animation, anything about any third-party rendering, super in demand, and that's what everybody loves seeing. So, I mean, you could literally start recording and never stop, and you would still not have made enough content to satisfy everybody.
No, especially on very specific subjects like rigging. Like, it's different for every type of character that you're doing, right? So it's very hard to have one overriding one, you know? So, exactly. I think those are, like, the most high in demand and the hardest to, like, plug those holes.
Yes.
So, you guys have you actually personally have been working on your 3D printing and your like laser etching stuff like that. So talk about like your process with that, and maybe for people that might be interested in 3D printing, and suggest like how to get into it.
I mean, this is going to all be my personal opinion because I've just been doing a bunch of research and fun into it.
Yeah.
But a long time ago, I went and I ordered a Glowforge. It's a very specific printer, and it was that's the laser cutter. Okay. And it was kind of still being developed. It was kind of almost like a Kickstarter, and it finally arrived. And within like sheer coincidence, it finally arrived right within 2 weeks of me getting my first in-house like 3D printer. Nice. So I had done like a month of research on 3D printers, like all different kinds. So I got Prusa i3 Mark III, and I think it's the best 3D printer you can get for under $1,000, and it's really nice. So I did a kit and I recorded the whole thing of building it. It took like 8 hours, but it's been so much fun playing with these two tools and having both of them in my house at the same time. Yeah. And you've seen some of the results of it.
Oh,
in fact,
I think
I've got one,
you got one right now?
One right here.
Oh, right. Gotta get it close to the camera.
So I'll let you control that.
So let's all talk about what it is.
Yeah, so this is off the laser cutter. So I was able to take both cut lines and different depth mats out of cinema, and this is every single noise, every procedural noise in Cinema 4D. So I brought these as just some fun things to share with people.
Yeah, it's crazy. That's so cool.
So I've been like playing with it nonstop, and it's been really fun. And I'm learning a ton, like new workflows for like how to export out of cinema into Illustrator into the software, like the proprietary like web interface, and learning all the different volumes and slicers inside of 3D printing. And it's all been really fun. And I'm learning a ton. And once I kind of have some good processes, I'm going to be recording some breakdowns and some like, here's settings I found that work, and here's my opinions of materials and whatnot.
Very cool. Is it very seamless to get like you're building a model, you're building your little ducky over there? Is it seamless to like get a mesh, and you have to worry about like intersections of geometry? Or is it fairly straightforward to like export out an OBJ and import into that proprietary software in the app and just kind of print it? Or
yeah, I think it's actually changed a lot, because I was doing some 3D printing a couple years ago, maybe like 2 or 3, and I remember I was having a lot of trouble. If you had like a sphere and a cube and they were intersecting, the particular pieces off when you're going to convert something from 3D into a 3D printer, those programs are called slicers.
Right.
So the slicers would get confused at that intersection, or at least the ones I was using. But now I've tried a couple different ones, and they're like, no, that's fine. We'll just figure it out. So really, the most important thing is thinking about things as volumes, but they can be intersecting. Mm-hmm. So you want things to be a little bit watertight, but they can be little individual watertight pieces.
They can be like interconnected and all that.
Yeah.
Like intersecting, and that won't be a problem.
Yeah.
Because it's almost like a mold at that point. It just takes the outer volume, and you don't have to worry about the insides and what's going on. So
Yeah,
it'd be,
exactly.
like, super messy. So I'm not a good modeler, and sometimes I need to put the arm there, and it's intersecting the torso.
Yeah, exactly. You'd be completely fine just letting them intersect. So that part is fun. There's been a lot to learn, and I mean, I've barely gotten started. And you can do stuff where you import like point data, and there's things that will mesh that properly and whatnot. And all things like infill, where it creates like internal structure to fill the volume to make it stronger. And it could be solid plastic, or you could do like 10%, and it's like a lattice grid type of thing. So that kind of stuff I'm learning a lot, and it takes a while, and the prints take a long time, but it's been really fun physically holding some of the things that we build.
Yeah.
So that's been great.
It's kind of like VR. You can build a scene in 3D and then actually put the goggles on and actually live inside of your scene. It's like super cool where technology is going. But dude, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure. I'm like very proud to call this guy a good friend. Like he's amazing in the community, and coming to NAB and being able to talk to the MoGraph heroes is just really crazy. So if you haven't been to NAB yet, what are you waiting for? This is the place to be. Get to hang out with Chris, Nick, Chad, the whole team, and schmoes like myself, and the Brograph guys and all that crazy stuff. So thanks for joining us here on the live at the NAB floor at the NAB C4D booth. And hope to see you in the next video.
What's up, everybody? This is Dave coming at you. Day 3, feels like 7 of NAB. And we're doing the Brograph iDesign thing with Andy Needham right now. And we are hanging out at the back of the Maxon booth. And there's 3 things I want to talk about today. Number 1 is lynda.com, which you do tutorials for.
Right. Yep, lots of training on there. I've been doing that for since about 2013. So I do mainly Cinema 4D tutorials. It's about getting people up and running, giving them the essentials to have the confidence to take on those bigger projects, because they've got that firm foundation of how to use the software. So we're covering different topics, but the main focus is to cinema's strengths, so motion graphics is a real big focus on there. But along the way, inside of that, there's obviously, as we know, really good plugins for Cinema 4D. So one of the courses that I've just released is X Particles 4 Essential Training, which gives you those fundamentals, and we go into some of the really cool new features as well. So I'm really excited about it.
And speaking of X Particles 4, you do the X Particles Challenge, which we're excited to be a sponsor of that.
You're already confirmed as a sponsor, right? That's great. Yeah, no. I mean, the last challenge was great, and thank you very much again for your sponsorship on that. It's a really good kind of like way of getting. If you're thinking about playing around with the concept, it could even be some R&D that you want to do. You can just render it out as an animation following the rules that we have set up, and then post it and be part of this challenge, and get it out there and win some really cool prizes as well. I mean, the stuff that we give away is great, and it's only going to get better this year as we get some bigger sponsors. But I can't tell you about that yet. So yeah,
I'm thinking if Brograph is a sponsor, I probably won't be able to enter the contest, but I'm very excited. I have had 4 since it came out. Haven't had much time to play with it because I've been busy, and I see all this great stuff, and I'm so excited to start messing around with it as soon as I get back from NAB.
That's great. I mean, the standard just keeps going up. and up. And I think that's probably partly down to the way that people render the particles now. There's lots of options for that. You've got your Cycles, obviously, and Redshift, Octane, Arnold, and but I've seen people do just a hardware render, and it looks cool because it's the style that they're getting at, There's so the xparticleschallenge.com website is where you can go, and you can also see like the past challenges and the progression there. So, for example, Mario Tramfuku, who won it last in the first year in 2015, is working for Insidium now, So it opens doors for people as well, I think. Yeah.
The other thing I want to talk to you about is Python, because I've dabbled in it a little bit, but it's kind of scary to me. And I haven't been able to sit. I've been doing interviews and stuff. Haven't been able to sit and really watch everything that you did, but it looks really cool in the presentation. And I keep hearing that it's getting easier and easier now to get into Python. And there's some other tools as well online that really help if you are building your own plugin, so to speak, with Python, with Espresso, that make it a lot easier to package it. Tell everybody what your presentation covered as far as Python.
Yeah, so with that, in the presentation, I actually was talking about our project, and one of the things I was discussing was the Espresso range map node, and everyone knows if they've used that how useful it is to be able to translate one value to another. And so in the final part of the presentation, I just broke down using the function in Python. And when you start looking at it in the SDK, the software development kit, it kind of looks, it could be like Japanese to most people, right? And unless you're Japanese, it's going to be very difficult to understand. But I tried to sort of show that it's not that hard to do it. And really all we're doing is just putting these values in and linking up with user data, which is very familiar to people that are building Espresso rigs and stuff like that. So, but the good thing about, certainly using Python in R19, and I'm not sure if it works in earlier versions, but you can just drag and drop parameters into the expression editor and then just link them up. It saves you writing out all the code, and it's just intuitive now that you can just you can do that. So,
I'm ready to go back home on that as well and get started learning. Where can people find you online if they want to check out your material?
Yeah, I'm on, imcalledandy.com is the website, but on Twitter and on Instagram, where I'm more active, is the handle is I'm called Andy, so yeah, that's the best place. And there's obviously the lynda.com and LinkedIn Learning is where you'll find my courses. And if you're interested in getting into the Python, there's the C4D Python Slack, and in my Twitter account, I've just posted a link to join that. So, yeah, that'll be up for a while. And if it ever runs out, just send me a message, and I'll get you sorted. So, yeah. All
right, we appreciate it. Stay tuned for more live from the floor of NAB 2018.
What's up, everybody? We are here with Caitlin Cadju, an animator at The Atlantic. She just finished presenting. It's the last day of NAB 2018, which feels like 10,000 days, right? Today was your first presentation. How'd it go?
I thought it went really well. I was super terrified, but once you get going, it seemed pretty good, and afterwards people said that it was good, so I feel like it went well.
It was excellent. It was very, very excellent. Yeah, it's very interesting. I know some of the animators coming in here, they're like, you get a little self-conscious as someone who has done it before, and you're like, oh, but people already know some of this stuff, But I learned so much from your presentation. Like with the book animation and stuff like that, like I was telling you earlier, I would have probably spent 4 to 5 hours trying to rig a giant espresso rig with and really you made it very simple with just the basic bend deformers and stuff like that.
Yeah, I thought about, and I'm new to it. So, of course, if I'm I want to make a book, how do I even do that? So I'll Google it, book, Cinema 4D. And I was like, oh, God, Like, I don't know how to do any of this stuff. It was obviously really a complicated undertaking. So, yeah, I'm used to... We just don't have, we have really fast turnarounds, too. So I was like, I'm going to cheat. I'm going to, like, make it... And it works. So
It's not really cheating. You're like, if it looks good, you can sell it. There you go.
It's an illusion.
They're called illusions, Michael.
It's a little bit of a mind freak, actually.
You're going to start levitating now, right? Okay, so your background actually originally started out in graphic design, right?
Yeah, I went to school for graphic design, a 4-year design program.
You know, and I always say that the graphic designers are the one who make the best motion designers. You know, what is it? And I watching your reel, absolutely love it. Like, you can tell, like, you know, you've got the design principles that a lot of us other animators who are just going straight into animation don't necessarily have, and I think that always makes a successful animator. But at what point did you decide you're like, graphic design is cool, but I'm going to move into, I need these things to move?
So this is like my origin story, actually, because when I was like a child, I said this in a panel the other day too, but like when I saw the movie The Lion King, I was like 4 years old, and I was like, I'm going to be I'm sure it took me a while to like catch up and learn what that really was. I always wanted to do animation. I wanted to go to school for 3D animation, actually. I just couldn't afford it. And I love all kinds of art and design. So graphic design, I had a state school program. I went for it, and I didn't know that After Effects was a thing then. And we had one basic After Effects project. Most of it was like print, like traditional stuff. And I was just like, I'm doing this now, because I saw like a window into what I'd always wanted to do and what I always loved. And then I'm like, well, I'm doing this, and now I can do this. Like, I can do what I always wanted to and do animation. So it's kind of just how I got started there. And then I just did that for the rest of college. I just stopped doing like the branding projects and stuff.
I'm not going to do this anymore. Give me something else.
Yeah, my professors were very supportive, so that was good.
All right, so let's switch gears a little bit. You also run two highly reputable things within the motion design industry. You are a moderator on the Motion Design Slack, right? And also you run the MoChat Tuesdays. Like, that's a big undertaking, because I've been on that Slack, and it's pretty intense.
Yeah, the Slack is pretty overwhelming, and I try to like acknowledge that now when I tell people go check it out. There are a lot of people on there. It's over 2,000 people. It might be closer to 3,000 now. I'm not 100% sure, and it's pretty like loud and crazy. But I've met so many cool people on there. That was how as like a self-taught person, if I'm having a problem, if I'm stuck on something, I don't really have a lot of people I can go to in person. I don't have any people in person really, so like that's my resource. And MoChat, it's funny because I started doing that when I was a student, like in college, and that was kind of how I like met anyone in the industry at all.
Did you start the MoChat like yourself?
No, I think it had been going actually for a couple of years before I found it. But Paul Canigliaro is a motion designer, and he started it. And then after a while, he's just like really busy, has a lot going on, and he brought a couple people on, me, Brian Beam from Rooster Teeth, and JC Tecklenburg, who's a freelancer in Chicago. So we all kind of like take turns every week running it. But it was just... It's funny now. I've been doing it for a while, but I've been doing MoChat, like participating for years, back when I knew nothing.
How'd you get your way into like one of the main people in charge? Is just like constant contributing and stuff?
I think so. Like, I just did it all the time because, I'm from Oklahoma. There was no motion animation scene there to speak of, so I was like, how do I do this? I'm trying so hard. And I don't even know when I found it. I stumbled across it on Twitter one day, and I just showed up every week. And I think that was part of it. You want people who are free, who can like help, and who have some familiarity. So I've been doing it a long time. I've started to get a better grasp on like the topics and freelancing and work, and just kind of, I don't know, worked out. Thanks, Paul.
How do you guys come up with your topics? Because I know as someone who runs a podcast every week, a weekly podcast, it can be, your life can catch up with you, and then it's like, oh no, I need a topic. What am I going to talk about?
There's a way to submit that we get topic suggestions from people, and of course, it's totally escaping me what the link is. It might be at mochat.xyz is like our URL just with basic info. It might be on there, or literally tweet it at us. We've gotten ideas from that. Well, we usually just kick it around. We have like a private channel on the Slack, feedback where we just kick ideas around, and we've been doing it for so long now. There are a lot of like repeat topics. It's hard to come up with totally new stuff. So sometimes we'll be like, oh, we've done that too recently, or this is really timely right now. And so it's kind of collaborative, and then we pick like what do I want to do, or because I can't do every topic. I don't know everything by any measure. So yeah, it's very collaborative to come up with that.
Cool. Okay, so here's another thing that I know you, as a motion designer and a female within the industry, you're very true. You're very passionate about raising awareness of the imbalance and male-female representation within this industry. We had you on the show a while ago talking about it, and you had the opportunity to speak on a couple of panels this week about women in MoGraph. Give me kind of a little rundown, or maybe some kind of like important parts of that maybe you thought really stood out to you.
Yeah, so I really liked being on those panels. I'm here with Maxon, and obviously, and they had a lot of women on, and they did a Women in MoGraph panel, like Women in VFX panel, just to kind of address that. I mean, it's a big disparity. So it was great just to hear women from like all different experience levels, like doing amazing work, talking about the like struggles that we faced, and also potential solutions. And one thing that I found really interesting is I've talked to a lot of people about, it's just like so good to have the dialogue going, and even talking to guys. A lot of guys are afraid to talk about it because it's scary and people get angry. And I feel like since we're talking about it so much, we're hopefully getting to a point where we can start moving past that, and people, communication is like a big part of the problem, I feel like. And then recognizing the truly nasty stuff, like recognizing that for what it is and being able to identify it and fix that. But a lot of smaller problems, I think, are communication based. So I'm so glad that we're talking about it, and then talking to guys about it, and like letting women who are so experienced and talented like share their insight into it. I think that's been pretty awesome.
I totally agree, and I feel like, now that this conversation has all started, maybe, I don't know, as a man, I'm not sure if I even recognized it at first, until it was put right in front of my face. And I think with the dialogue actually happening, more and more people are becoming aware, so that they can think about it consciously, whether or not, if they're working with female artists, or whether they're unintentionally discouraging.
Yeah, that's a great point, just because I've had conversations with guys even relatively recently where I'm feeling like pushed out and shut out, and it's like I'm so grateful that I feel comfortable at this point bringing it up to them, because every time I've done that, we've had a great conversation. We usually end up just kind of like it's an easy thing to resolve, and a lot of the time it's happening unintentionally. So yeah, like shining a light on it. And because I know it's easy to not see stuff that's not happening to you, but just talking about it, and then being able to have a relationship where I can say like, hey, this is uncool, this XYZ is like making me uncomfortable or whatever, and to understand that like we can still be friends. Like that doesn't have to become like a point of conflict. It can be like, oh, like let's figure that out so we can actually like be closer and have that not be an issue. And I feel like that's happening a lot more. And I think that's also really awesome.
I agree. I mean, I've seen the dialogue happening a lot more, and it's very exciting. Is there any one advice, like, and I asked this to a couple of the other ladies who I interviewed, I talked to you on the show about, is there any advice you can give to women in order to get out there? Is there any advice you can give to men who, are in this industry in order for them to encourage women more, or to kind of pay attention to the issue?
Yeah, it's kind of a tough one. Chew on it for a second. I do think for men to be more encouraging, like some of it is, the unaware stuff that you're doing. And some of it is like, since guys have been around so much longer in greater numbers, they are like friends, kind of gathered together, and it can feel intimidating for a woman to feel like she can be accepted as part of that group, especially younger women. And I have experienced that. So it's good to just like be friendly, make sure that, that you're acknowledging that person, or, what have you. It doesn't even take very much. And to just be aware of that kind of thing. It can make people feel more comfortable, because a lot of that is women being intimidated, feeling uncomfortable, and it's pretty easy to fix in a lot of cases, actually. It's just that we've set it up in a way where it's not happening naturally. And I guess, what was the other thing that I was going to say? For guys to... I see a lot. This used to be a bigger, well, it's probably still a big problem, but that I had seen personally, a big problem if a woman has an issue, something that she feels sometimes guys will, they get upset, and because they don't want to hear it. It depends on the situation, which there are so many different ones. But sometimes I'm, if I feel like there's something that's happening, and I'm like, this is not cool. Depending on the context, sometimes guys go to the disbelieving of it before they go to maybe she has a point, and to just listen, because every situation is different, but it's just giving it the attentiveness I think that it needs, because then that's the way stuff like that happens and the women feel I can't talk to anyone about this, people don't really care, people don't believe it. So just being open to hearing it if somebody comes to you being I feel like this is going on. I think that goes a long way. It's just having conversations.
Awesome. Where can people find you online?
KateKadju.com. I'm going to spell that. All my online handles. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, everywhere. It's all the same. It's KaitCadieux.com .com, or at KateKadju, KateKadju@gmail.com. Feel free to send me a message. And, if you want to check out the Motion Slack, it's at motionslack.com, and you can just apply for an invite there. I think that covers it.
Great presentation. Thank you for doing the interview with us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
All right. Stick around for more interviews at the NAB 2018 Maxon floor as we wrap up our last day.
Hey everybody, what's up? It's David Ariev here with iDesign.com and Brograph.com with my good friend Jake Ferguson, who actually I just met for the first time here. He's yet another artist that makes me very upset that he's only been doing this professionally for 4 years or something like that?
Yeah, just 4 years professionally.
Just 4 years professionally, and yet he's worked with Imaginary Forces and some of the top companies out there and made some incredible work. So you're out here as a demo artist for Otoy. Is this your first time out here with them? It's really cool that they're kind of partnering with C4D on this one, because it's such a nice pairing, with the solo artist and that whole vibe.
Yeah, no, this is actually my first time at our convention in general.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, but also, representing Otoy, and they're great, the support from the community and just the intermingling with all the C4D artists and everything, it's fantastic.
Yeah. How have you been liking the old NABs, exploring for the first time?
Great. Yeah. Just seeing all the tech and everything, it's super cool just to see all this kind of innovation. A few people I recognize from LA, a few of the other software designers, I don't know, the AR wall over there is super cool, and all the Adobe booth was awesome. It's really great. It's good to be around this many innovators and creatives at the same time.
Totally. I didn't get to see the AR stuff. I've been so blind to the rest of all this other madness. So somebody told me that you got your start at Ringling with Joey Corman as your mentor.
That's right.
So you've got kind of more of an art background as well, right?
Yeah. No, I started as a fine artist, and prior to going into digital, I had about 17 years of traditional art experience, from painting to drawing, charcoal art, portraits. I did tattoos for a little bit, just everything other than digital art, So being able to take all those traditional fundamentals and principles and being able to put them into a digital platform, it was incredible.
I'm jealous of that. It totally shows in your art. That robot piece that you released, a couple years ago on the Octane Facebook group that blew everybody's minds. I can't believe. So you bring in a lot of other software experience and all of that, fine art background as well. I can't believe you did model that from scratch, right? In ZBrush, the robot dude, right?
A few of the pieces. Most of it was kit bashed. For my art, I have to keep a certain speed to it, or I become just uninterested.
Same here.
I got to keep it rolling as fast as I can, and if I'm not seeing something within a couple days of coming up with the concept, it usually gets abandoned. And I have graveyards of hundreds of projects that have never seen the light of day, because I'll be working on them for 3 weeks, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is boring. This is not being fun anymore, so I'll just abandon it completely. Which is cool. It's I hate all my art anyway, so I might as well. It's there's actually...
Shut up!
There's only 2 points that I do enjoy a product. It's in the middle when I'm seeing it come together, and it's right when I finish. But anywhere else, I'm not too happy with it, and I'm I could do better. But it's good to have that track record and be able to go back and like learn from all the mistakes that I've made.
Totally. So, so after the Ringling stuff, you got hired by Imaginary Forces, and you worked there for how long?
About 2 years. Yeah.
And he's worked on the Stranger Things titles.
Very, very minimal. Yeah. Not much at all. Yeah, mostly season 2. Yeah, I made the Arabic version of the titles, and yeah.
But you said you laid the type for it as well, right? To some degree.
There was a few type layouts that I did, and with some of the other designers, but yeah, very minimal. That was mostly Eric Dubuque.
Stop downplaying it. It's so cool, dude. But then, okay, so no, but your real, this project, the Stars counterpart title sequence, you said you worked on it for like over the course of a year, right? And this project, I had no idea it was your baby, and it blew me away. It's got these super wide scenes with these architectural. I'd like to know more about it, whether you modeled all the architectural stuff, and well, let's just start there.
Yeah, no, I mean, we definitely modeled all the architecture, and it was such a limited job. We had a very small budget, and it was a really cool, creative, demanding project, and because of the limited budget, the company, like IF, it was hard for them to expend resources on it, so a lot of us ended up working on it on our off hours, and it was a very small team. It was myself, one designer in the beginning of the pitch, a design intern, an animation intern, an editor, producer, and creative director.
Yeah, but you animated, textured, lit, did all that crap yourself.
Yeah, and I mean, it was helpful with Octane because I did a huge amount of the design in the beginning phases of it. It's like our design phase stretched out over 5 months. And because, I mean, we went through so many different looks and to finally get it approved and everything like that. But, all the assets that I made in the design phase carried over into animation. And I just had to optimize a few of them, and it just worked beautifully. So the whole thing was animated in about 5 weeks. But because we had all those assets made and everything, the animation was very minimal for the most part. But all the material development and the architecture and everything like that, that's what we spent most of the time on. And the inspiration for the architecture came from Louis Kahn. He was our biggest source for that, and then also Saul Bass. He did these older posters for I forgot the name of the series. It was Psychology maybe, but it was these really stunning pieces with these really surreal architectural landscapes with tiny little people in it.
The Beeples people.
Yeah, the Beeples people, and 70 years ago. It's really cool to see.
That's amazing. Yeah, and I think it tells the story so well. I haven't seen the show, but it feels like it takes place in the past. I don't know if that's true, because it's got this kind of vintage, retro, sepia tone. And then it also has this really nice symmetry throughout everything. So it feels like parallel worlds, and then there are these people coming towards mirrors, and there are these figures that look like they're about to, merge or touch, and then you've got these, the weird what is that? Is that a game? It's
what? Go. Yeah, the game of Go. Yeah.
Right. See, I'm terrible about board games, but yeah, I knew it was a board game. And then so they're and then the camera sometimes passes through the mirror. So I'm okay, we're moving between parallel worlds, parallel dimensions. So all that storytelling takes place in this sequence, and sets me up for the show so nicely.
Oh, yeah, that's great. I mean, you nailed it. That's really close to what it's about. And I mean, our creative director, Karen Fong, she is just phenomenal. And she was able to just creatively direct this in a way that, was so subtle and genius that everybody on the team was just that hyped about it. And I mean, we came in every weekend. We stayed until 1 a.m. every night, to make sure we got it all done. It's just me and this intern animating everything. But that intern was also phenomenal. His name's Kyun Nam. And yeah, he and I went to school together, and he's a beast. I think he graduates this year, and I think he's going to make his way out to IF. So that's really good for them, and I'm really excited to get him back in LA.
That's awesome. See, yeah, maybe I'm not so jealous because I'm too lazy to stay up. I'm too lazy to stay up till 1 a.m. all the time. You've been obviously crushing it and just working your ass off. The last thing I was going to ask about that project, did you use mocap? Was that Mixamo, or did you?
Yeah, it was Mixamo. Yeah,
awesome.
Yeah. And I mean, that project in general, IF LA was kind of unaware of a few easy techniques that a lot of freelancers are very familiar with because they have to operate in a very controlled environment. So being able to bring those kind of principles to the table, and they're like, do you think you can handle this by yourself? And I'm like, yeah, just rent me this box, get me Octane, I'll use Mixamo. It's what's Mixamo? I'm like, oh, watch this, So there was a lot of those moments. And, especially using Octane for it because Karen, the creative director, had never worked with it that much. So when she's able to sit next to me while I'm developing materials and changing lights, and I can update it in real time. And I'm like, well, what do you think of this? And she's like, can we do this a little bit more green? And then it like updates in front of her, and she's like, and stop, perfect.
That back and forth process is so much faster.
It's incredible. Yeah. So, and I mean, I don't know if you've ever sat in a flame session or anything like that. Are you aware of what it is?
I know that it's a real-time compositor. Unlike After Effects, it's got that beef behind it so that you can make all those changes immediately. So Octane's like the flame of 3D.
Exactly. So the benefit to doing that, flame sessions are mostly so clients can come and sit at the very tail end of the project and just go through the whole grading process and make sure it's exactly honed in how they want it to. And Octane's the same way, but it's throughout the whole pipeline. And the speed is phenomenal. It's unbeatable. That's amazing.
So, wait, did you just say you used Octane 4 on the project, or no?
No.
Okay, I was like, I'm gonna fight you on that now. That's awesome. Let's see, what else? Oh yeah, so what do you have, coming up in the future? What are your plans for the future?
Well, right now I'm co-directing the titles for Off Barcelona. It's really interesting. Yeah, it's with my friend Hebok Lee, and he's a legend. I mean, this guy. I remember geeking out over his stuff when I first started school, and then I met him, and we really hit it off, and we were working on a project together, and then this came up, and I called him, and I'm like, you want to do this with me? And he's like, fuck yeah, let's do it. It was super fun. But so we're working on that, and we're slaving away on it, but that's going to release around the end of May, and I think it's going to be really stunning.
Can you tease what the concept is for it, or no?
Absolutely, yeah. So it's based off of twins. So it's based off of the myth of Gemini, for the Greek myth, which is about a mortal sister and an immortal sister. Well, they're males in the myth, but we're doing two sisters. But, that's a cool device in itself, but we wanted to add something additional to it that we could play on it. So we were trying to make a parallel of media and these two sisters. And originally we were going to do creativity and logic, but it didn't stick too well, but we eventually decided on the medium and the message. The message being the immortal sister, the medium being the mortal. So we do a tour through the evolution of media through human innovation. So we start off with the letterpress, we move on to broadcast on the screen, and then we move into AI and the internet. So the point is that the medium can consistently die and change and evolve. It's supposed to die, like the death of a phoenix, and from those ashes emerges a much better technology. But the message, the immortal, the creativity and human ingenuity, that stays consistent through all of time, and that kind of artistic expression, the medium itself doesn't matter, it does matter, but it is a tool, it's a device to get the message out, and the message is the eternal one, so it's just...
Damn, Daniel, dude, that is extremely deep.
Yeah, no, we spent a lot of time on the concept development of it, and we spent most of our time on our pre-pro and design phase. We did a live action shoot for it, which was great, and it was all on green screen, so it's full CG environments and everything with footage composited in, but it's going to be beautiful.
Yeah, that's so awesome that you're putting all that time into pre-pro and the story. Next time I do a big, CG project like that, I've promised myself that I'm not just going to jump right into making the pretty stuff,
Yeah, no, I usually I like to spend 75% of the time in pre-pro, and that makes production just fly, because I've done the opposite, and it's not that it doesn't work, you just end up burning so many resources because you're pushing it that much harder. With design, it's much easier to turn around and make iterations. You haven't woven something so tight that when you undo a thread that it falls apart. In production, it can tend to be a rabbit hole if you don't go in with a very, very clear, defined plan. Totally.
Well, thank you so much for talking with us, man. It's so great to meet you. You're such an awesome, nice, humble dude. And yeah, keep kicking ass. And I look forward to seeing you at future conventions and stuff like that. All right. Octane Jesus and Jake Ferguson, a.k.a. Jake Ferguson, signing off.
What's up, everybody? We are here with Robin Haddow.
Hey, thanks for having me.
No problem. You just finished presenting a little bit ago, and I have to say I am blown away by your work.
Aw, thank you so much.
We presented together last year, and I have to say I was so intimidated by the scope of your work and everything that I didn't come up and say hi until the last day.
I know. I only got a chance to shake hands at basically when I was running out to the airport, and it was a quick little hi-bye. Yeah. So I was so happy that you guys were in charge of all the tech and making everything run smooth this year, and we actually got an opportunity to hang out. Right. Because that's why we're here, right?
That is why we're here. Who cares about the presentations? We're just here to hang out.
Second.
So let me talk to you. I would love to talk FUI. FUI, which is futuristic user interface, fantasy user interface, fictional. Yeah.
Effing cool.
Right. and then the sister of GUI, the graphical user interfaces. So basically you create all the screens and techie stuff that people see when they're enhance.
Yeah, that's totally well said. All of the screens that are on set to serve as dressing for the set for a specific character's lair, all of the graphics that actors interact with on devices like tablets, environmental, I think more and more too, like particularly with superheroes, there's like wearable gauntlets, chess pieces, and the point of screen graphics is to sort of narrate the script and move a story point forward that sometimes is difficult to or boring to just say, or it's sort of a big deal to maybe film. And so it's something that has to translate in 24 frames or less, just an instant. You can look at the graphic and understand like access denied or like access granted are two typical tropes that we often face when we're putting together some elements. So yeah, it's super fun. It's getting really popular. There's a lot of it. Yeah.
The scope of your work is just incredible. Like, okay, for those listening, just give them like a little tidbit of how many shows and movies you have worked on.
Well, when I was coming out here, I was sort of going through the list of productions that I've been fortunate enough to work on, and I feel like I lost count because I can't remember, honestly, to tell you the truth, but I feel like it's got to be around 35 or 36 or 34 or something like that. My favorite experience was working on Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. And I was in charge of designing all of the screens for the Ravager ship called the Quadrant. Now, there's a lot of technical issues I later heard about in post when comping all of the graphics because they were like textured, scratched, grungy screens on plexiglass. And it was sort of difficult to get clean 3D tracks. And I know a lot of it ended up on the cutting room floor, as a lot of this stuff does in the industry. That's sort of par for the course. So I'm kind of curious. Like, I haven't seen the entire movie yet. I'm famous for falling asleep.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. I think it's pretty good. I saw the beginning, so things may or may not have made it. That's sort of the goal, but it's also just the fun of putting together the screens for me. I really enjoy the design and animation process of that. So
you've got an amazing design as far as these go. Do you ever actually sketch them out? I mean, I'm assuming that they come to you, or do you get the footage? Okay, let me start over because I'm asking so many questions at once. Do you get the footage ahead of time where you actually know what screens they're putting in?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Yes and no. So most of the graphics that I do are for playback, which means that you design and animate, and there's no time for sketching. So it's sort of an idea, and the sketching is like prepping your asset, like your C4D file for render passes, and I'll just screen grab a frame and drag that into Illustrator or Photoshop and sort of build out and paint over broad stroke composition first before getting into the finer detail of elements, and then complete the animation that gets put into director file, or it's just QuickTime. It's loaded into a device for playback that goes on set. So it's like there's like design, animation, or conceived design is one of my really good friends. He's a really talented artist. His name's Deca Digital. I'm sure you guys have heard of him and his work, and he always says and breaks it down into the parts of conceive, design, animate, and author, and then ship that out to set where they light it up. The operators light it up, so there actually is something on the devices to aid the actors. Yeah, so it actually goes to set and serves as a visual for the actors to interact with and act, I guess, off of. And then sometimes that just is what stays in the shot and shows up. And then oftentimes, if it's like a more important story point or they want to change it, then that will show up again in post and get redone and then comped in, and we do that as well. Like
So you guys do some of the 3D tracking of the scenes?
No. Thankfully, no. There's only so much time in a day. There's only no. Like I'll redesign a screen or remake something or change it that gets sent off to another post house to do the final composite.
Oh, gosh, there's so many questions. Okay, so at what point I'm assuming, like, with so much work that is involved in some of these screens,
You forget. I'll open up whole sets and I made that, or did I make that? When? Like, there's a lot. The shows every year I find get exponentially bigger with the demand for having monitors or wall monitors or just devices in the environment. So you tend to make a lot. Yeah.
So at what point, what's your average time on creating one of these screens? Like, I watched your presentation. You rocked out about 3 screens worth just in that time. And I bet you anything, if you weren't talking, you could have done it a lot faster, So it's like, what's the average time, or what's the shortest one that you've done versus is there one that has been really drawn out and taken you
Not. I wish there was. Typically a day. Get something going. I don't work in a linear fashion at all, just because I'll do broad strokes with the design and setting up the composition. I'll start animating, and then through that process I'll see where little design bits are needed, and it's often even just a still, or to have something there for a color accent or visual interest. And I definitely go back and forth, because otherwise I find you can get too caught up in detail that doesn't really matter, and it's just texture, right? Your eye doesn't see all of what that exactly is. You just want to have a layer of texture. And also I like to the last couple of years I've been dedicated time into learning expressions and being able to get the computer to do all of the thinking and all of the repetitive tasks. And so I'll just make one and then use an expression to duplicate it, or have the computer do all the calculating, so that also can free up my time to think about and worry about other things.
Now, FUI and the GUI stuff is it's a generally new, newer. Yeah, absolutely. How did you get into it? And how would someone new in this industry get into it? Because you're one of the pioneers in this right now.
I definitely wouldn't say that at all. I totally look up to guys like Deca Digital, who I mentioned, Jace Hansen, his work. Mark Colleran was one of the first guys that I saw his work when I was in film school, and I was like, wow, that's beautiful. There are all these technical drawings that were artistic and super stylized, and it was looking at the work of those 3 guys. I was like, oh, this is actually could be a career, or turn into a viable job path. And so I started to I guess I was aware of it, and then I sort of fell into it by accident. My background was in video games, and I worked on game trailers and in-game cinematics, and this sort of FUI style, as you can imagine, translates in games, because it's all can be in futuristic worlds and environments. So I was doing, I guess, what you could call FUI design in games. And then somebody saw my work online and reached out, and it sort of for film and TV, and it sort of tumble-winded that way. So yes, what can people do in order to get in? I don't think that there is one avenue, but certainly to use social media as an avenue or an outlet to put your work out there. And if you do really awesome, good work, you totally gets noticed. And just to don't be afraid, and just start playing, and just start trying, and just make something and put it up on Twitter or Instagram, and keep doing it and keep practicing and make little individual studies. I remember when I first started, I was like, oh, I just want to learn how to. I mean, this was before Connect layers came out, and I was trying to get Beam to connect in 3D space. And I was writing all the 2Comp and trying to understand what that was. It was way over my head at the time. And I remember in my sitting in my apartment when I had like 2 little red planes, and I finally got the Beam to connect from one plane to another. I was like, oh my god, I did it! Like, and nobody obviously was there. I was like sitting by myself, and all it was a beam that connected in 3D space. But that's a big deal to understand how that works and what's behind it. So I think if you can just focus on one little thing to put in your toolkit, to use a cheesy analogy, and just sort of build up upon that, it's like you can just sort of build your repertoire up that way, and not in an intimidating sense, right?
Awesome. That's so awesome. Okay, so let's switch gears a little bit. You got to participate on the Women in MoGraph panels this week. There were 2 of them, right?
That's right, yes, yeah. Maxon hosted a luncheon on Monday where I was lucky enough to sit in the discussion with a bunch of our other female artists and sort of tease out what that is or what that means. And I ultimately can tell you, I don't think there's one answer or there is a solution. I think it's just the visibility and to have female representation in the industry and to put yourself out there so you can show other young women that are thinking about getting into the field that there are other women out there, and it's not such a, we're trying to make a space that it's not so weighted or male dominated industry. And just to say like, hey, like, there are other women in the industry working in here, and it is just to put yourself out there so other people know, because it, like, even to make a comparison to the FUI industry, I didn't even know that was a career path. So without others putting themselves out there and sharing like, hey, this is a thing, I had no idea. And I hope that if I am voicing myself as a successful woman working in the industry, that other young women thinking about getting in it won't feel intimidated and feel like empowered that they can do it too.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Where can people find you online?
Oh, my website is www.robinhaddow.com. That's ROBYNHADDOW.
Thank you, Robin.
Thank you so much. I'm a hugger. I was about to go in.
Let's do it.
Thank you so much, Matt.
Thank you guys so much. Stick around for more on the NAB 2018 Maxon floor. That was so great. What's up, everybody? We are here at the end, as we are.
Oh, it's not the end.
This is the end.
It's just the beginning.
The end of NAB 2018, that is. Here at the Maxon booth. So, of course, any NAB or SIGGRAPH or any of the Brograph iDesign videos are not complete unless we have the man himself, Paul Babb.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So, how do you think the show went overall?
I think it was great. I mean, the crowds were incredible. We had great crowds here at the booth. I think we had some great traffic online. The events were great because they were way over what we expected. More people than we would ever expect. So that was a lot of fun.
Yeah. We're going to continue some of those traditions again in next year's, right?
Absolutely. Those don't go away.
Good.
We picked up a couple of new ones this year. I guess we're stuck with those too. So
Good. So there were a ton of great presenters this year.
And a lot of new ones.
A lot of new
faces. Great stuff. Yeah.
Was there one in particular that maybe piqued your interest that you thought was just like totally outstanding?
In all honesty, I am literally in meetings back to back all day, every day. Today's the first day that I didn't, and that was the day I kind of this morning caught up on work that was online. But what happens when we get back to the office is Rick, myself, and Donovan, we go through the videos and we edit them. So it's my chance. I actually get a chance to watch most of the videos after the show, which is great because then I can kind of go through and see all the great presentations. I got snippets of people, but there were some good ones.
So talk to me about the Women in MoGraph design panel. I talked to 4 of the presenters. I interviewed and we talked about it, and kind of the struggles with this being kind of a male-dominated industry, and what we can do in order to help reverse that. So
sure. And as you know, this kind of came about because it was a year and a half ago or a year ago, we were getting some comments online that we didn't have enough female presenters. And it's not for lack of trying. We've been working really hard to get that done. And I have to admit that the first, because we were getting kind of attacked, I got kind of mad because I thought we're really trying hard. But then I thought about it and went, you know what, well, maybe there's something that we can do rather than getting mad. Maybe there's something that we could do to facilitate that, to empower more women in the industry, encourage more women to come out and present and that type of thing. So that's where the idea of doing the Women in Motion Graphics panel at the luncheon. The nice thing is it will continue on. We did film the event. We are going to put that online, so you'll be able to see it later. We'll let you know where. And actually, we were kind of trying to figure out, most of the presentations end up on Cineversity.com. This in particular is not really educational. It's more information, not great. So I was able to grab a domain, and I'm going to work with Tuesday, the moderator, and her niece, Nikki, who is going to do some designing and they're going to put up a little site where people can watch the videos, and we're going to extract some of the information. And just in the beginning, we want to get the information up, but they're talking about expanding the page so that there's some of those questions about how can I break into the industry, tips for breaking into the industry, tips for dealing with problems that women run into in the industry, and they're all willing to go in and start contributing to that site. So the great thing is it wasn't just a one-off panel. It's going to turn into something where it will do what we hoped, empower more women, give them the information they need to get in the industry.
Fantastic. That is super fantastic. What a great idea. Okay, so switching back to Cinema 4D, what's the future look like? I know you can't tell me most of the time every time I ask this question. You
always ask me at NAB. Ask me at SIGGRAPH.
I know, right?
Let's see. Let's be cryptic.
Yeah.
There's some power coming. With power comes great responsibility. No, with power comes great complexity. And so, that's the battle with us all the time. 3D is really complex, but we always try to make it as easy as possible, as accessible as possible. There are some things coming that will bring a lot of power. The types of things that people want. The balance will be that there's going to be a bit of a learning curve to some of those things. Boy, I hope I'm not getting myself in trouble. I don't think I've given anything away. But there are some great features coming that are going to take you, you're going to need to make some time, but then the benefit will be that extra power and extra types of things you'll be able to do is going to be completely worth it.
R20. The big 2.0.
R20. And we will actually, we're already talking about the possibility of going out in the fall after we ship and maybe picking some cities and not just doing the road show where we go, hey, check out the new features, but maybe having some workshops where we can kind of work people through some of the new features, give them tips and techniques, and maybe a hands-on kind of thing. Yeah.
Come to Dallas. We'll totally do that.
Oh, we'd love to.
Awesome. Paul, thank you so much. From myself and every other presenter who has ever worked with you guys, I just want to give you a personal thank you that we love this software. We're doing these interviews. We're out here promoting you guys' product because really the community here, and I think that's driven by really you and Matthias and Rick and all you guys, you guys just make us feel so welcome. So I appreciate that.
Thank you. I mean, it's the best part of our job. And you guys should know that these guys were an integral part of our presentations at the show and took a huge load off of us. I really appreciate it. I've never seen Rick more relaxed.
Yes! Every time I walk by, I said, how's your stress level? How's your stress level? I'm here for you. You tell me what you need.
Yeah, his stress. And even better, I was able to have him at some of the meetings I've wanted to have him in B2B meetings here are extremely important for the integration with other tools and things like that. And he's my number 2 guy. So having him in some of those meetings was huge. So thank you. Awesome. It was great.
Thank you, Paul, so much.
Thank you, sir.
For everything you do. From the Maxon floor at NAB 2018, this is us for Brograph.com and iDesign.com signing off. Until next year.
Pretty good, I guess. Brograph.com, an online resource for learning Cinema 4D, After Effects, and other motion graphics tools specifically catered to help you prevail as a motion graphic designer.
What's up, bros? Welcome to another Brograph motion graphics tutorial.
With tutorials, plugins, and now a podcast with tens of thousands of listeners worldwide.
Yeah, it's a great community to be part of.
We give you professional time-saving tips, industry news, interviews, shortcuts, and lessons that help keep you current in the world of motion design.
Go into HDR Studio, take the render settings, pick the HDR, put in reflection, and gorgeous.
I love projects that scare me. When our art director comes to us and asks for something that I had never done before, man, it gets me pumped.
Our weekly long-form podcast will give you the latest news, help you in your file management, hardware configuration, and client relations. Learn about the latest render engines, modeling techniques, and workflow integration while staying entertained. Real nice banana.
That's so funny. All right. I'm going to live forever.
Our Brograph Talks are a chance to see the way industry leaders from around the globe are changing the face of motion design.
Sometimes you got to make stuff that you're not going to put on your reel, and I'm not here to judge.
The podcast and talks include people like People, Barton Damer, Nick Campbell, Andrew Kramer, David Ariev, Chad Ashley, Paul Babb, EJ Hasselfrost, Mitch Myers, Chris Schmidt, Jules Urbach, Cornelius Dammert, David Brodeur, Andy Needham, Caitlin Kaju, Zubair Parker, Noseman, Ryan Bean, Casey Hupke, Nick Lyons, Sage, Joey Korenman, Jeremy Cox, Rick Barrett, John Dickinson, Matthias Omatola, Patrick Goski, Brandon Clements, Steve Teeple, Tom Glintz, Patrick Lundstrom, Julia Simone, Devin Coe, Al Heck, and even Deadmau5.
You get that render done. Yeah, you better frame what?
Our Brograph breakdowns go behind the projects and give you an insight on what it's like to manage and maintain your own personal business or work for a large company. Join us for live sessions, check out our useful plugins, watch time-lapse projects, interact with us, and send us email questions and topic ideas. Or just hit the Rando Render button and do an imaginative daily that'll keep you on your toes.
Take all your dreams and let's do it!
Subscribe today and get automatic updates on the latest tutorials, tricks, tips, and inspiration brought to you by industry professionals Dave Koss and Matt Milstead.
We don't care how you get here, folks. Just get here.
Subscribe now to Brograph Tutorials. It's pretty good, I guess.